The machinery was tipping, 3 tons of steel groaning against mud that wouldn't hold. Evan Cross stood in the rain, boots sinking into unstable ground, and made a choice that would either save 12 lives or end his career. Behind him, a vice president who'd been set up to destroy him. In front of him, the man who'd orchestrated it all, watching, waiting for the collapse. This wasn't about construction. It wasn't even about the dare that started it. This was about what happens when a single father refuses to break, even when the whole system is rigged to make him fall. If you want to see how a quiet man became impossible to ignore, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The corner office on the 43rd floor had windows that didn't open. Evan Cross had noticed that his first week as an external consultant at Meridian Development Group. Floor-to-ceiling glass that made you feel like you were floating above the city, but the air inside was recycled, controlled, exactly 71 degrees no matter the season. Everything about this place was sealed tight, including the people. Evan stood at the conference table with his laptop open, waiting for the executives to finish their private joke. He'd been waiting for 4 minutes. His daughter's daycare closed at 6. It was already 5:12. Cross, Gerald Vance didn't look up from his phone. Director of Operations, 56, with the kind of tan that came from golf courses, not construction sites. You gonna show us these revised timelines, or just stand there looking nervous? I'm not nervous. Evan clicked to the first slide. I'm aware we're starting late. You got somewhere to be? This from Todd Henriksen, VP of Finance, younger than Vance but meaner, the kind of man who smiled when he sensed weakness. Yes, Evan didn't elaborate. He'd learned that much in 6 months here. Don't explain, don't apologize, just do the work and get home. Henriksen's smile widened. Let me guess. Picking up your kid? Evan pulled up the Gantt chart showing the resort project timeline. The foundation work is 3 weeks behind schedule. If we don't pour concrete by the 15th, we lose the weather window. I've identified 4 areas where we can compress. He didn't answer the question. Vance finally looked up. You do this every meeting, Cross. Check your watch, fidget, like you're doing us a favor just being here. I'm contracted to be here until 5:30. It's 5:14. That's adorable. Henriksen leaned back, fingers laced behind his head. He's counting minutes, like an hourly worker. Evan kept his voice level. The resort timeline is what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss whatever the hell we want to discuss. Vance stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city spreading below like a kingdom he owned. See, Cross, here's what you don't understand about how things work at this level. We don't clock in and out. We don't have someone waiting at home expecting us at a certain time. We stay until the work is done, until the deal is closed, until the problem is solved. I understand that. Evan clicked to the next slide, showing critical path dependencies, which is why I'm recommending we bring in a second concrete crew. You understand nothing. Vance turned from the window. You think you can walk in here, corporate consultant with your neat little spreadsheets, tell us how to run a $200 million project, then disappear every night at 5:30 to go play daddy? You think that makes you reliable? The room had gone quiet. 2 other executives who'd been whispering in the corner stopped. Even Henriksen's smile had faded into something more focused, more interested. Evan closed his laptop. I think my contract deliverables speak for themselves. I've identified 17 million in potential overruns and provided mitigation strategies for each. The work is solid. The work is adequate. Vance walked slowly back to the table. But adequate doesn't cut it here, Cross. You know what does? Commitment, loyalty. Being the guy who stays late because that's when the real decisions get made, not the guy rushing home to read bedtime stories. Evan picked up his laptop. If there's nothing else about the timeline, there's one more thing. Henriksen was grinning again. Evan felt something shift in the room, some unspoken signal passing between the executives. Since you're in such a hurry, we won't keep you, but I want to propose something. Call it a professional development opportunity. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. Henriksen stood, smoothed his tie. See, we've been talking, Vance and I, about your situation. Single dad, very noble, very sympathetic, but it raises questions about your ability to fully engage with the kind of high-stakes environment we operate in. Evan's hand tightened on his laptop case. My personal life doesn't affect my work product. Doesn't it, though? Vance circled around behind Evan, forcing him to turn. Let me ask you something, Cross. When's the last time you took a risk? Real risk. Not calculated spreadsheet risk. The kind where you don't know how it ends. Every construction project is a risk. Don't be dense. I'm talking about personal risk. Vance glanced at Henriksen, something passing between them that made Evan's instincts flare. See, there's someone we think you should meet. Someone who could be very valuable to your career here, if you had the balls to actually pursue it. Evan headed for the door. I'm not interested in whatever this is. Marissa Lang. Henriksen said the name like he was laying down a trump card. Our VP of Strategic Development. Ever talked to her? Evan stopped. Everyone knew Marissa Lang. She'd been with Meridian for 8 years, climbed from project manager to VP by 34, had a reputation for being brilliant and absolutely merciless. She'd killed 3 executive careers that Evan knew of, men who'd tried to undermine her or take credit for her work. She didn't shout, didn't need to. She just dismantled you with facts until there was nothing left but your resignation letter. I've been in meetings with her, Evan said carefully, but you've never talked to her. Not really. Vance moved to block the door. Not aggressive, just present. Here's what we're thinking. Tomorrow, there's a site inspection at the resort. Lang is leading it. We think you should ask her out. Evan stared at him. What? You heard me? Ask her to dinner, drinks, whatever people do on dates these days. Henriksen was enjoying this, his whole body leaning forward with anticipation. She's single. You're single. Could be good for both of you. This is insane. This is an opportunity. Vance's voice hardened. You want to be taken seriously here? You want people to stop seeing you as the part-timer who runs home to his kid? Show us you can operate at this level. Show us you can take a swing at someone in Lang's league. Evan felt something cold settle in his stomach. You want me to ask out a senior executive so you can, what, laugh when she rejects me? This is harassment of her and me. Harassment? Henriksen laughed, sharp and sudden. Jesus, Cross, relax. We're offering you a chance to expand your network. Lang's got influence, real influence. If she took an interest in you, your career trajectory here changes completely. And if she reports me for inappropriate workplace behavior, I lose my contract and my reputation. She won't. Vance said it with certainty. Because you're going to do it right, professional, respectful. You're going to walk up to her tomorrow at the site, in front of everyone, and you're going to ask her to dinner. Clear, direct. The kind of thing a confident man does. Why? Evan's voice was flat. Why do you care if I ask her out? Because we're bored. Henriksen grinned. Because it'll be entertaining. Because you walk around here like you're too good for office politics, too focused on your precious work-life balance to play the game. Let's see how you handle something that's not on your neat little timeline. Vance leaned in close. And because if you don't, we'll know exactly what you are. A consultant who doesn't have the spine for the kind of environment where real power operates. Someone we can't trust with anything that matters. This is extortion. This is Tuesday. Vance opened the door. Site inspection is at 9 a.m. Lang will be there. We'll be watching. Do it or don't. But either way, we'll know who Evan Cross really is. Evan walked out without another word. His hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage so pure it made his vision narrow. He took the elevator down 43 floors in silence, walked through the lobby where security guards nodded at him like everything was normal, pushed through the revolving doors into late afternoon traffic. His phone buzzed, a text from the daycare. Lily is ready whenever you are. She made you a picture today. Evan stood on the sidewalk, briefcase in one hand, phone in the other, and let himself feel the full weight of what had just happened. 2 executives had just dared him to sexually harass a colleague for their entertainment, had framed it as a test of his manhood, his commitment, his worth. He thought about his daughter, 7 years old, drawing pictures while she waited for the only parent she had left. Her mother had walked away when Lily was 2, decided motherhood wasn't what she wanted, left Evan with a toddler and a mortgage, and a choice about what kind of man he was going to be. He'd chosen to be the kind who showed up, who kept promises, who didn't play games with people's dignity. Evan walked to his car. He had a daughter to pick up, a dinner to make, homework to supervise, a bedtime story to read. That was real. That mattered. The rest of it, the dare, the executives, the whole toxic performance, could wait until tomorrow. Months. Lily was wearing paint-stained overalls and had glitter in her hair. "Daddy, look what I made!" She thrust a piece of construction paper at him. It showed two stick figures, one tall and one small, holding hands under a yellow sun. "It's us going to the park." Evan knelt down, took the picture carefully. "It's perfect. Should we hang it on the fridge?" "Next to the other ones." Lily grabbed his hand, started pulling him toward the car. "Can we get pizza, please? You had pizza on Monday, but I want it again." "What about tacos?" Lily considered this seriously. "Okay, but with extra cheese." In the car, she talked nonstop about her day, how Jacob had brought a beetle to show and tell, how Mrs. Peterson had read them a book about a dragon who was afraid of flying, how she'd learned to pump her legs on the swing all by herself. Evan listened, made the right sounds, asked the right questions. This was the part of his day that made sense, the part where he knew exactly what he was doing and why. At home, he made tacos while Lily set the table. She insisted on doing it herself now, counting out plates and forks and napkins with intense concentration. He watched her from the corner of his eye, this small person who'd reorganized his entire life around her existence, and felt the same fierce protective instinct he'd felt since the moment she was born. Over dinner, Lily asked him about his day. She always did. "It was complicated," Evan said. "Was someone mean to you?" He paused, fork halfway to his mouth. "What makes you ask that?" "You have your thinking face. You only get that when something is hard." Evan put down his fork. "You're very observant." "That means I notice things. Mrs. Peterson taught me that word." Lily took a huge bite of taco, cheese dripping onto her plate. "So was someone mean?" "Sort of, but I don't want you to worry about it. I don't worry about grown-up stuff. But I don't like when people are mean to you. You're a good daddy." Something cracked open in Evan's chest. He reached across the table, squeezed her hand. "Thank you, sweetie. That means a lot to me." "Are you going to be mean back to them?" "No, I'm going to handle it the right way." Lily thought about this while she chewed. "What's the right way?" "I'm still figuring that out." After dinner, after bath time, after 2 chapters of the Dragon book, Evan sat on the edge of Lily's bed while she fought against sleep. Her room was decorated with drawings she'd made, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a stuffed elephant named Ralph that she'd had since she was a baby. "Daddy?" Her voice was small in the darkness. "Yeah? Are you scared of anything?" "Sometimes. Everyone gets scared." "What do you do when you're scared?" Evan pulled her blanket up, tucked it around her shoulders. "I think about what's really important, and I remember that being scared doesn't mean you can't do the right thing." "Oh." She yawned, eyes already closing. "That's good." He sat there until her breathing evened out, until he was sure she was fully asleep. Then he went to his own room, sat on his bed in the quiet, and pulled out his laptop. He opened his email, scrolled through the threads related to the resort project, found the name he was looking for, Marissa Lang. Email protected. Evan stared at the screen for a long time. He could ignore the dare. Walk into the site inspection tomorrow, do his job, say nothing. Let Vance and Henriksen have their proof that he wasn't willing to play their game. But that wasn't really an option, was it? Because they'd made it clear. Refuse, and he was marked as someone who couldn't operate at their level, someone disposable, someone whose contract could be terminated the moment they decided he was more trouble than he was worth. He thought about Lily's question. What do you do when you're scared? Evan closed the laptop without writing anything. He lay back on his bed, stared at the ceiling, and thought about the kind of man his daughter was learning to see. A man who showed up, who kept promises, who didn't play games with people's dignity, including his own. The resort site was 2 hours north of the city, carved into a hillside overlooking a valley that would be stunning once they cleared the construction equipment. Evan arrived at 8:30, parked his truck next to the temporary trailers that served as the field office. The ground was still wet from yesterday's rain. Mud everywhere. The kind of site where you wore boots and hard hats and accepted that you'd be dirty by lunchtime. Evan grabbed his inspection checklist, his camera, his safety vest, took a breath, headed toward the group of executives clustered near the main foundation excavation. Marissa Lang stood slightly apart from them. She was tall, maybe 5'9", wearing work boots that had actually been used for work before, dark hair pulled back, safety glasses already on. She was reviewing something on a tablet, her posture completely focused, like the rest of the executives didn't exist. Vance saw Evan first, nudged Henriksen. Both of them watched with obvious anticipation. Evan walked past them, walked straight to Marissa Lang, stopped 3 feet away, giving her space, waiting for her to acknowledge him. She looked up. Her eyes were gray, sharp. "Cross, you're early." Traffic was lighter than expected. "You're the consultant handling timeline optimization." It wasn't a question, she already knew. "I read your last report. The concrete crew recommendation is sound, but the cost analysis is incomplete. I can provide a full breakdown by end of day." "Do that." She went back to her tablet. Evan didn't move. "Ms. Lang, I need to speak with you about something unrelated to the project." "Then it can wait." She didn't look up. "It's time sensitive." Now she looked at him. Really looked, taking his measure. "You have 30 seconds. Behind them, Evan could feel Vance and Henriksen watching, could imagine them smirking, waiting for the rejection, the humiliation they'd engineered. He kept his eyes on Marissa. "I'd like to take you to dinner, not as a networking opportunity, not as part of some career strategy, as a date. You can say no. I won't bring it up again if you do, but I wanted to ask you directly instead of playing games about it." Marissa's expression didn't change. "Who put you up to this? Does it matter?" "It matters if you're standing here wasting my time with some executive prank." Evan felt something solidify in his chest. "Vance and Henriksen suggested I ask you out. They framed it as a test, a dare. They expected me to either refuse or do it badly enough that you'd report me for harassment. And you decided to do it anyway." "I decided to do it honestly." Evan held her gaze. "If I'm going to ask someone out, I'm going to mean it. Clear boundaries, no pressure, no leverage. You say yes or no, and either way I go back to being the consultant who fixes timelines. That's it." Marissa studied him for a long moment. Behind them, the sound of heavy machinery, the smell of diesel and wet earth. The entire construction site is witness to this conversation. "You have a daughter," she said. "I do." "You leave every meeting at 5:30. You've never stayed for drinks, never joined the golf outings. People talk." "I know." "They think it makes you weak, uncommitted." "I know that too." "Does it bother you?" Evan thought about Lily's question. "Are you scared of anything?" "Yes, but not enough to change it." Something shifted in Marissa's eyes, not softening exactly, more like recognition. "I have a counterproposal, Mr. Cross." "All right. Instead of dinner, you're going to join me on this site inspection, all of it. Every foundation point, every structural check, every safety compliance review. It'll take 6 hours minimum. You'll miss your 5:30 window. I can call the daycare, they have extended hours. Can you? Or will that strain your carefully maintained work-life balance?" Evan pulled out his phone, sent a quick text to the daycare director, someone he'd built a relationship with over 3 years of pickups and drop-offs and sick days. "Done. I'm available until 7. Marissa almost smiled. Almost. "Then let's see how you handle real fieldwork, consultant. And if you can keep up for 6 hours without checking your watch every 15 minutes, maybe I'll consider dinner." She turned and walked toward the foundation excavation without waiting for his response. Evan followed. Behind him, he heard Henriksen's voice, pitched low but audible. "What the hell just happened?" Vance didn't answer, but when Evan glanced back, both executives looked confused, like they'd expected a different outcome and didn't know how to process what they'd just witnessed. Marissa led him to the first inspection point. "We're checking foundation integrity. The soil composition here is unstable. Too much clay, not enough proper drainage. I want to see if the engineering specs account for seasonal water table fluctuation." They don't, Evan said. I flagged it in my Week 3 report, recommended additional soil testing and possible redesign of the drainage system. Show me. For the next hour, they moved through the site. Marissa asked questions that weren't really questions. They were tests. Did he know the load-bearing requirements? Had he reviewed the geological survey? Could he spot the difference between proper rebar placement and the shortcuts the contractor was trying to slip past inspection? Evan answered each one, not showing off, just demonstrating competence earned from years of doing this work, first as a junior engineer, then as a project manager, now as a consultant who actually got his hands dirty instead of just writing reports. At the third foundation point, Marissa stopped. You know what you're doing. I do. Why consulting then? You could be running your own projects. Consulting lets me control my hours, structure my own schedule. Evan knelt down, checked a drainage pipe alignment. When my daughter's mother left, I had a choice. Keep climbing the corporate ladder and see Lily on weekends, or step back and be the parent she needed. I chose her. That's the noble version. That's the only version. Evan stood, marked the pipe placement as acceptable on his checklist. There's no other story underneath it. I didn't get demoted, didn't burn out, didn't fail at anything except marriage. I just decided my daughter was more important than my career trajectory. Marissa walked to the next inspection point. People must think you're soft. People think a lot of things. Does it bother you? You already asked me that. I'm asking again. Evan followed her up a muddy incline, boots slipping slightly in the wet soil. It bothers me when it affects my work. When executives like Vance and Henriksen decide I'm disposable because I won't perform the kind of masculinity they respect. When they dare me to harass you because they think single fathers are funny. But you asked me out anyway. I asked you out honestly. There's a difference. At the top of the incline, Marissa stopped, turned to face him fully. You want to know what I think, Mr. Cross? Evan? And yes. I think you're either very brave or very stupid. I'm not sure which yet. She pulled out her tablet, made a note. I also think Vance and Henriksen are going to regret this dare by the time we're done here. We? I don't like being used as a punchline in executive power games, and I especially don't like men who think a woman's rejection is entertainment. Marissa started down the other side of the incline. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to finish this inspection with me. You're going to do excellent work because I don't tolerate mediocrity. And at the end of it, I'm going to make a decision about dinner. That seems fair? It's not about fair, Evan. It's about seeing who you are when the performance stops. They worked until 4 in the afternoon. 6 hours of foundation checks, structural reviews, safety compliance documentation. Evan's boots were caked with mud. His safety vest was streaked with dirt from crawling under equipment to check bolt placements. His hands had blisters from handling rebar that the contractor insisted was properly secured, but absolutely wasn't. Marissa worked just as hard. Harder, maybe. She didn't delegate. Didn't stand back and point. She climbed into excavations, checked welds, questioned every contractor claim until they either proved it or backed down. At one point, they found a major issue. A support beam that was supposed to be reinforced steel was actually hollow aluminum, cheaper, faster, completely inadequate for the load it would bear. Shut it down, Marissa told the site supervisor. Nothing moves forward until this is replaced with proper materials. That'll delay us 2 weeks. Then you should have installed it correctly the first time. Her voice was calm, absolute. Document the failure, invoice the contractor for the delay, and make sure every other beam on this site is inspected before we pour another yard of concrete. The supervisor started to argue, stopped when he saw her expression. Yes, ma'am. Evan watched this exchange with something close to admiration. This was what real authority looked like. Not threats, not intimidation, just complete certainty that the right thing would be done, regardless of cost or schedule. At 5:15, his phone buzzed. Text from the daycare. Lily is having a great time. No rush. Marissa glanced at him. That your daughter? Yeah. You haven't checked your watch once. I know. Why not? Evan looked at the foundation excavation, the corrected support beams, the safety violations they'd caught before anyone got hurt. Because this matters. and because I trust the people taking care of her. You're good at this, Marissa said. The field work. You don't carry yourself like a consultant who sits in offices all day. I spent 10 years on sites like this before I went consulting. Got my engineering degree at night while working as a junior foreman. Learned more from the crew than I ever did in a classroom. That explains it. Explains what? Why you don't act like the other executives. You've actually done the work. Marissa started walking back toward the trailers. Vance and Henriksen have never set foot on a construction site except for photo opportunities. They think authority comes from a title. You know it comes from competence. At the trailer, Marissa pulled off her hard hat. Her hair was flattened, streaked with dust. She looked tired, real. Nothing like the polished VP who'd stood apart from the executives that morning. Dinner, she said. Thursday night. There's an Italian place near the office that doesn't try too hard. 7:30. Evan felt something catch in his chest. You're saying yes. I'm saying you earned a conversation. Don't make me regret it. I won't. And Evan? She met his eyes. Whatever Vance and Henriksen are planning, and they're definitely planning something, don't let them use me to hurt you. I can handle myself, but I don't like collateral damage. Understood. Marissa climbed into her car, drove away without looking back. Evan stood in the mud, covered in dirt, blisters on his hands, and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Not hope exactly, more like possibility. He pulled out his phone, texted the daycare. On my way. Sorry for the delay. The response came immediately. She's fine. See you soon. On the drive back, Evan thought about the inspection, the way Marissa had worked, the questions she'd asked, the way she'd shut down the contractor without raising her voice. He thought about Vance and Henriksen, watching from a distance, expecting humiliation and getting something else entirely. And he thought about Thursday, dinner, a conversation with a woman who'd seen him work for 6 hours straight and decided he was worth her time. When he walked into the daycare, Lily ran to him immediately. Daddy, you're dirty. I was working outside. Did you build something? I made sure things were built right. That's almost the same. In the car, Lily talked about her day, how she'd learned to write her name in cursive, how Jordan had brought cookies for everyone's snack, how Mrs. Peterson had told them about the planets and how far away the stars were. Evan listened, made dinner, supervised homework, read the dragon book. And later, after Lily was asleep, he sat in his room and thought about what Marissa had said. Whatever they're planning, don't let them use me to hurt you. She was right to be worried. Men like Vance didn't forget. Didn't forgive. They'd expected a show, and instead they'd gotten something they couldn't control. That made Evan dangerous. And dangerous consultants didn't last long at companies like Meridian. He opened his laptop, started documenting everything. The dare, the conversation, the site inspection, every detail, time-stamped, saved in 3 different locations. If they came for him, he'd be ready. But first he had a date on Thursday, and a daughter who still believed her father was someone who did the right thing, even when it was hard. Evan wasn't going to prove her wrong. Thursday came faster than Evan expected. He spent Wednesday evening explaining to Lily that he'd be home a little late, that Miss Sarah from next door would pick her up from daycare and stay with her until he got back. Is it for work? Lily asked, arranging her stuffed animals in a careful line on her bed. Sort of. It's a dinner meeting. With the mean people? Evan paused, folding her clean laundry. With someone who isn't mean. Someone I think you'd like if you met her. Lily looked up at him, her expression suddenly serious in that way 7-year-olds could be when they sensed something important. Is she your friend? I don't know yet. Maybe. Okay. Lily went back to her stuffed animals, apparently satisfied. But if she's mean to you, you should tell her to stop. I will, I promise. Thursday afternoon, Evan left work at 5 like always. Went home, showered, changed into clothes that weren't covered in construction dust. Dark jeans. A button-down shirt that Lily said made him look fancy, but not too fancy. He checked himself in the mirror and saw what he always saw. A man who looked tired but present. Someone who'd traded corporate polish for something more real. Miss Sarah arrived at 6:45, a retired teacher who'd lived next door for 8 years and treated Lily like her own granddaughter.
"You look nice," she said when Evan opened the door. "Where are you headed?" "Dinner with a colleague." Sarah's eyebrows rose slightly, but she didn't press. "Take your time. Lily and I are going to make cookies and watch that movie about the penguins." Lily appeared from her room, already in pajamas. "Have fun at your meeting, Daddy." Evan kissed the top of her head. "Be good for Miss Sarah." "I'm always good." "That's debatable," Sarah said, but she was smiling. The restaurant was called Lucia's, tucked into a corner 2 blocks from the Meridian building.
Evan had walked past it 100 times but never gone in. It had cloth napkins and actual wine glasses, but the lighting was warm instead of pretentious, and he could see the kitchen through an open doorway. Marissa was already there. She sat at a corner table, wearing dark slacks and a gray silk shirt that somehow looked both professional and completely different from anything she'd wear to the office. Her hair was down. Evan realized he'd never seen it down before. She saw him and stood. "You're on time. You sounded like the kind of person who'd notice if I wasn't." "I am." She gestured to the chair across from her. "I ordered wine. Hope that's all right." "It's fine." Evan sat, accepted the menu the waiter brought. "You come here often?" "That's a terrible line." "It's also a genuine question." Marissa smiled slightly. "Once a month or so, the owner's from Tuscany, doesn't try to make it trendy, just makes good food." They ordered. Evan chose pasta because it seemed safe. Marissa got something with lamb that the waiter described enthusiastically. When they were alone again, she folded her hands on the table and looked at him directly. "So here's what I need to know, Evan. Are we here because you actually wanted to ask me out, or because Vance and Henriksen backed you into a corner?" "Both," Evan said. "If they hadn't dared me, I probably wouldn't have said anything. Not because I wasn't interested, but because I know how the power dynamics work. You're a VP, I'm a contractor. Asking you out puts you in an uncomfortable position regardless of your answer." "But you asked anyway." "I asked honestly. That was the only way I could live with it." Marissa picked up her wine glass, turned it slowly. "Do you know how many times men have asked me out at work?" "I'm guessing a lot." 47 times in 8 years. I counted. She took a sip. 31 of them were trying to sleep their way into better positions or insider information. 12 were testing whether I'd report them to create leverage for later. 4 genuinely thought I'd be flattered because they were executives and I should be grateful for the attention. That's depressing. That's corporate America. Marissa set down her glass. You're the first one who admitted someone else put you up to it and still asked like you meant it. I haven't decided if that makes you honest or crazy. Can't it be both? Tell me about your daughter. The subject change was deliberate. Evan recognized it as another test. He could deflect, keep things professional, maintain the careful distance most people kept between work and personal life. Or he could answer honestly. Her name is Lily. She's 7. Loves drawing, hates green beans, thinks dinosaurs are more interesting than princesses. She's the reason I restructured my entire career 3 years ago, when her mother left. When her mother left, Evan confirmed. Sarah, my ex-wife, she tried. For 2 years she really tried. But she wasn't happy, didn't want to be a mother, finally admitted it and left. No custody fight, no drama. She just signed the papers and moved to Portland. That must have been hard. It was honest. I respect that more than I would have respected her staying and being miserable. Evan watched the waiter bring their food. Lily asks about her sometimes. I tell her the truth, that her mom loves her but wasn't built for parenting, that some people are better at other things. Does Lily accept that? She's 7. She accepts that I'm there every day, that I show up. The rest is abstract. They ate in silence for a moment. The pasta was excellent. Evan tried to remember the last time he'd eaten at a restaurant that didn't have a kids menu. I don't have children, Marissa said. Never wanted them. People tell me I'll regret it later, that I'll change my mind, that I'm too focused on my career to see what really matters. She cut into her lamb with precision. I'm 34 years old. I think I know my own mind. People are uncomfortable when women make choices that don't fit their expectations. And when men make choices that don't fit theirs, you left a promising career to raise your daughter. That threatens the narrative that men can have it all if they just work hard enough. Evan nodded. I had a colleague tell me I was wasting my potential. that Lily would have been fine in daycare full-time, that I was using fatherhood as an excuse for mediocrity. What did you say? I told him potential meant different things to different people, that raising a good human was worth more to me than a VP title. Evan met her eyes. He stopped talking to me after that. Because you made him question his choices. Because I suggested there might be more than one way to measure success. Marissa took another bite, chewed thoughtfully. Vance and Henriksen think you're weak. They told me so on Monday. Evan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. They talked to you about me? They wanted to warn me, said you'd probably ask me out and I should shut it down hard, make an example of you. She paused. They seemed very invested in your humiliation. Did they say why? Because you leave at 5:30, because you turn down golf outings and poker nights, because you don't perform the kind of masculinity they respect. Marissa's voice was matter of fact. They think single fathers are either pathetic or lying about their commitment. Either way, not someone they can trust with real power. Evan set down his fork. What did you tell them? I told them I'd handle it appropriately. They assumed that meant I'd report you to HR. She smiled, sharp and satisfied. They didn't consider that I might actually say yes. Why did you say yes? Marissa considered this. Because you asked me like I was a person, not a chess piece. Because you worked an entire site inspection without complaining or checking out mentally. Because when I tested you on foundation specs, you knew the answers cold. She leaned forward slightly. And because I'm tired of men who think authority comes from intimidation. You have authority because you're competent. That's rare. The waiter came back, asked if they wanted dessert. Marissa ordered tiramisu. Evan ordered coffee. When they were alone again, Marissa pulled out her phone. I need to show you something, but first I need to know if you're planning to stay at Meridian long term. My contract runs through the resort completion. After that, I don't know. That's 6 months. Give or take. Marissa turned her phone toward him. On the screen was an email thread. Vance's name at the top. Read this. Evan read. His stomach went cold. The email was from Vance to Henriksen, sent the day after the site inspection. Subject line, our single dad problem. Lang didn't shut him down. She took him on the inspection and apparently didn't hate it. Need to accelerate timeline. Can't have a contractor getting ideas above his station, especially one who's already demonstrated he won't play by normal rules. Suggestions? Henriksen's response was brief. Create a conflict of interest. Make the relationship look inappropriate. Force her to choose between her reputation and him. She'll throw him under the bus to protect herself. They always do. Vance's reply. I like it. Let's see how our noble single father handles real pressure. Evan looked up. They're going to set me up. They're going to try. Marissa took her phone back. Henriksen's already started. He submitted a complaint to HR yesterday claiming he witnessed inappropriate conduct between us at the site inspection. Says you were touching me without permission, making suggestive comments, creating a hostile work environment. That's completely fabricated. I know. I already filed a counterstatement with HR and legal, included the full text of their emails from the day of the dare, my own documentation of the inspection, and a formal disclosure that we were having dinner tonight. She said it calmly, like she was describing construction timelines. I'm not hiding this relationship, Evan. If we're doing this, we're doing it transparently. You filed a disclosure before our first date? I filed it before Henriksen could weaponize it. There's a difference. Marissa's expression hardened. I've seen what happens when executive men decide to destroy someone. They manufacture evidence. They create narratives. They make it impossible to defend yourself without looking defensive. So I documented everything first. Evan sat back, processing. You knew they'd do this. Before you said yes. I suspected. Vance has a pattern. 3 years ago, he went after a project manager who'd reported safety violations, created a fake scandal about expense fraud. The manager resigned rather than fight it, even though he was innocent. Vance has done it twice more since then. She paused. I started keeping files after the second one. Why haven't you reported him? To who? He's director of operations. Henriksen covers for him. The CEO plays golf with both of them every Sunday. Marissa's voice was calm, but her eyes were steel. The system protects men like Vance. It always has. So I protect myself. The tiramisu arrived. Marissa took a bite, seemed to savor it deliberately. Evan's coffee sat untouched. So what happens now? He asked. Now we see how committed you are to doing things honestly. Marissa set down her fork. Because this is about to get ugly. Vance will escalate. He'll manufacture more evidence. He might try to imply our relationship is affecting your work product or my objectivity. He'll make it look like I'm giving you preferential treatment. Are you? No, I'm giving you the same treatment I'd give any competent contractor who does good work. She met his eyes. But perception matters, and right now Vance is building a perception that we're both compromised. Evan thought about Lily, about the stability he'd built for her, about what would happen if he lost this contract and the reputation damage made it hard to find another one. I could walk away, he said quietly. End this now. Go back to being just the consultant who fixes timelines. You could. Marissa didn't look away. Is that what you want? No, but I need to consider what's best for my daughter. Then consider this. If you walk away, Vance wins. He learns that threatening your livelihood is enough to make you comply. And the next time he targets someone, which he will, he'll use the same playbook. She leaned forward. But if you stay, if we fight this the right way, we might actually change something. Or we both lose our careers. That's possible. I won't lie to you. Marissa's voice softened slightly. But I've been playing defense my entire career, following the rules while men like Vance bend them. I'm tired of it. If I'm going to go down, I'd rather go down fighting. Evan picked up his coffee. It had gone lukewarm. He drank it anyway. What's the right way? To fight this? We document everything, every interaction, every email, every meeting. We do our jobs flawlessly, so there's no legitimate criticism he can leverage. We follow every policy, every protocol, every rule. She paused. And we refuse to be ashamed of something that isn't wrong. Dating isn't wrong. Dating someone at work gets complicated, but we disclosed it. We're not in a direct reporting relationship. There's no policy violation. Marissa's expression was fierce. What Vance is doing, the manufactured evidence, the retaliation, the intimidation, that's what's wrong. And I'm not going to let him get away with it because he's betting we'll be too scared to fight back. Evan thought about what he'd told Lily. Being scared doesn't mean you can't do the right thing. Okay, he said. What do you need from me? I need you to keep doing excellent work. I need you to attend every meeting, answer every question, be beyond reproach professionally. She held his gaze. And I need you to trust me, because the moment Vance thinks he can drive a wedge between us, he'll push as hard as he can. I trust you. You barely know me. I know you shut down a contractor who tried to cut corners. I know you filed an HR disclosure to protect both of us before our first date. I know you've been documenting Vance's pattern for 3 years waiting for the right moment to use it. Evan finished his coffee. That's enough. Marissa smiled. Actually smiled. You're either very brave or very stupid. You said that before. I'm still deciding which. They finished dessert, talked about easier things. Marissa's background, MBA from Northwestern, started at Meridian as a junior analyst, worked her way up by being better than everyone else at seeing problems before they became disasters. Evan's path, community college engineering degree, 10 years on construction crews, marriage and divorce, and single fatherhood that reshaped every priority he'd ever had. At 9:30, Marissa signaled for the check. I should let you get home to your daughter. She's probably asleep by now, but yeah. Outside, the evening had turned cool. The street was quiet, just a few people walking past. Marissa's car was parked 2 blocks away. They walked together in silence. At her car, she turned to face him. This was good, unexpectedly good. Unexpectedly? I've been on a lot of first dates that were clearly last dates by the time the appetizers arrived. She pulled out her keys. This wasn't one of those. So there'll be a second date? If you're still standing after Vance's next move. She said it lightly, but her eyes were serious. I meant what I said, Evan. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. And you're still in. Evan thought about Lily's drawing on the refrigerator. 2 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. He thought about the kind of man he wanted her to see. Someone who showed up, who kept promises, who didn't back down from bullies. I'm still in. Marissa reached out, touched his hand briefly, just fingers against fingers for a moment. Then she got in her car and drove away. Evan walked to his truck, drove home through streets that were mostly empty. Miss Sarah was reading on his couch when he came in. She went down at 8:30, Sarah reported. We made chocolate chip cookies. There's a plate for you on the counter. Thank you, really. The dinner went well? Sarah asked, gathering her book and purse. Yeah, it did. Good. She patted his arm on her way out. You deserve something good, Evan. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. After she left, Evan checked on Lily. She was sprawled across her bed, Ralph the elephant tucked under one arm. He pulled her blanket up, kissed her forehead. Then he went to his room, opened his laptop, and started documenting the evening. Everything Marissa had told him about Vance's pattern, the HR disclosure, the manufactured complaint, the emails she'd shown him. He saved it all in 3 locations: cloud storage, external drive, email to himself with the timestamp. At 11, his phone buzzed. Text from Marissa. Thank you for dinner and for not running when I showed you Vance's emails. Most people would have. Evan typed back. Most people don't have daughters who think their dads are brave. I'm trying to live up to the expectation. Her response came quickly. From what I've seen, you already do. He set the phone down, stared at the ceiling, and thought about what was coming. Vance wouldn't wait long. Men like him never did. They needed to reassert control, prove they could still manipulate outcomes. The question was what form it would take. More HR complaints? Manufactured evidence of misconduct? An attempt to turn other executives against them? Evan didn't know. But Marissa was right about one thing. The only way through was to be absolutely beyond reproach. Do the work flawlessly. Document everything. Refuse to give Vance any legitimate ammunition. Friday morning came too early. Lily bounced into his room at 6:15, already dressed but with her shirt on backwards. Daddy, Mrs. Peterson said we're going to the zoo today for a field trip. Can I bring Ralph? Ralph stays home, kiddo, but you can bring your camera. The pink one you got me for my birthday? That's the one. At breakfast, Lily talked non-stop about the zoo, which animals she wanted to see, whether the penguins would remember her from last time, if they'd have time to stop at the gift shop. Evan made pancakes, signed her permission slip, packed her lunch with extra snacks because field trips always ran longer than expected. At drop-off, Lily hugged him tight. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, sweetie. Have fun at the zoo. I will. She ran toward her classroom, backpack bouncing. Evan drove to the office, arrived at 8, earlier than usual. The Meridian building was already busy, executives streaming in with their coffee and their phones, already deep in conversations that probably started before they left home. Vance was waiting at the elevator. Cross. He said it loud enough that 3 other people turned to look. Didn't expect to see you in this early. Usually you're counting down the hours until you can bolt. Project deadlines, Evan said neutrally. We're pouring foundation concrete next week. Right, the foundation. Vance stepped into the elevator when it arrived. Evan followed. So did 4 other people. How was your site inspection with Lang? Productive? Very. We identified several critical issues. I bet you did. Vance's smile was sharp. She's thorough. Doesn't miss anything. Evan didn't respond. The elevator filled with uncomfortable silence. 2 people got off at the 15th floor, 3 more at 23. At 37, Vance blocked the door before Evan could exit. Word of advice, Cross. Lang's got a reputation for eating consultants alive. You want to be careful getting too close. People talk. People always talk. Yeah, but sometimes what they're saying is true. Vance let the door close. Evan had to put his hand out to stop it. On the 37th floor, Evan went straight to his temporary office, opened his laptop, started reviewing the concrete pour specifications. At 9, his phone rang. Marissa. Vance cornered you in the elevator, she said without preamble. How did you know? Security cameras. I have access. Her voice was calm. What did he say? Evan repeated the conversation word for word. Classic intimidation, low level, testing your reaction. Marissa was quiet for a moment. He's going to escalate. Probably today. Be ready.
What should I expect? I don't know yet, but document everything. If he contacts you, save it. If he involves other people, note their names. If he tries to change your work assignments or restrict your access, tell me immediately. Understood. Evan, she paused. Last night wasn't a mistake. Don't let him make you think it was. I won't. After she hung up, Evan tried to focus on work, reviewed specifications, checked contractor schedules, answered emails from the field team about equipment delivery. At 10:30, Henriksen appeared in his doorway. Cross, got a minute? What do you need? Henriksen came in, closed the door, sat down without being invited. I wanted to clear the air about something, this complaint I filed with HR. The fabricated one? It's not fabricated. I saw what I saw. Henriksen leaned back. But I'm willing to withdraw it if you are. If I'm what? Willing to be reasonable. End whatever's developing with Lang. Step back. Focus on your work and your kid and leave the office politics to people who understand how they work. Evan saved his document, closed his laptop. You filed a false complaint accusing me of sexual harassment. Now you're offering to withdraw it if I stop seeing Marissa. That's extortion. That's pragmatism. Henriksen's smile was cold. Look, Cross, you seem like a decent guy, but you're out of your depth here. Lang is using you to make a point. Vance is using you to prove one. You're collateral damage in a fight that has nothing to do with you. Except I'm the one being accused of harassment, which I'll make go away. All you have to do is be smart. Henriksen stood. End it with Lang. Do your job. Collect your paycheck. Go home to your daughter. Everyone wins. Except truth and integrity, and every other person Vance decides to target next. That's not your problem. It is if I'm the one he's targeting now. Evan met Henriksen's eyes. Tell Vance his leverage doesn't work if I don't care about the threats, and tell him I'm documenting everything, including this conversation. Henriksen's expression went cold. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. After Henriksen left, Evan immediately typed up the conversation. Timestamps, direct quotes, the implicit threat. He emailed it to himself, to Marissa, and to his personal backup account. His phone rang 30 seconds later. Marissa. He offered to withdraw the complaint if you stopped seeing me, she said. How did you? I told you. I have access to security footage. No audio, but I can read body language. And Henriksen only sits down uninvited when he's delivering an ultimatum. She was quiet for a moment. What did you tell him? That his leverage doesn't work if I don't care about threats. Good. She sounded satisfied. That'll make Vance furious. Is that the goal? No, the goal is to make him sloppy. Angry people make mistakes. Marissa's voice shifted. But Evan, you need to understand what you just did. You rejected their off-ramp. From here on, they're going to come at you with everything they have. I know. Do you? Because everything includes your contract, your reputation, your ability to work in this industry. She paused. They'll make it look like you're incompetent, unreliable, a liability. And once they're done, no other company will touch you. Evan thought about Lily at the zoo, probably standing in front of the penguin exhibit right now with her pink camera. Then I guess we'd better make sure we win. That's not a guarantee. Nothing is, but I'd rather lose fighting than win by giving in to extortion. Marissa was quiet for a long moment. Okay, then here's what happens next. Monday, there's a board meeting. Vance is presenting the resort project status. He's going to try to undermine your work, make it look incomplete or inadequate, create doubt about your competence. How do you know? Because that's what he does. Discredit the person, then the person's work becomes suspect. Her voice was steady. So this weekend, you're going to prepare. Review every timeline, every specification, every decision you've made on this project. Be ready to defend all of it with data. I can do that. And Evan, don't go to the office this weekend. Don't give them any opportunity to claim you were doing something inappropriate. Work from home. Document your hours. Keep everything clean. Understood. That afternoon, Evan left at 5:30 like always. Picked up Lily from aftercare. She was bursting with stories about the zoo, about the baby elephant and the sleeping lions and how Jordan had dropped his lunch in the monkey exhibit.
At home, she showed him 47 photos on her camera. Most were blurry. A few were actually good. One was a perfect shot of a red panda looking directly at the lens. "This one's my favorite," Lily said. "Can we print it?" "We can print all of them if you want." "Really?" "Really." That night, after dinner and homework and the dragon book, Lily asked him if his work meeting had been good. "It was complicated," Evan said. "Is someone still being mean?" "Yeah, but I'm handling it." "Are you scared?" Evan thought about Henriksen's ultimatum, about Monday's board meeting, about Vance's pattern of destroying people who didn't comply. "A little, but being scared doesn't mean you can't do the right thing." Lily considered this. What's the right thing? Standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Not letting bullies win just because fighting back is hard. "Oh." She hugged Ralph closer. "I think you're brave, Daddy." "Thank you, sweetie. That means a lot." After she was asleep, Evan spent 3 hours reviewing every document related to the resort project, every timeline, every cost analysis, every risk assessment. He found 2 small errors, minor calculation mistakes that didn't affect the overall conclusions but could be used as ammunition if someone was looking for flaws. He corrected both, documented the corrections, saved everything. Saturday, he took Lily to the park, let her play while he sat on a bench and did more work on his laptop. Other parents gave him looks, the dad who couldn't disconnect even at the playground, but he ignored them. Sunday, Marissa called. "How's the prep going?" "I'm ready. Found 2 minor errors, fixed them, documented everything." "Good." She paused. "I shouldn't tell you this, but Vance met with Henriksen and 3 other executives yesterday. Off-site, no official record." "How do you know?" "Because I have friends who don't like what Vance does either. They're scared to act, but they'll pass information." Marissa's voice was tight. "Whatever they're planning, it's bigger than a board presentation. Be careful Monday." "You too." "Evan." She hesitated. "If this goes badly, if they manage to manufacture something we can't disprove, I need you to know I'll fight it. I won't let them destroy you to get to me. This isn't just about you." "I know, but you're vulnerable in ways I'm not. You have a daughter, a mortgage, a life that depends on your income." She took a breath. "I have savings, connections, options. If someone has to take the fall, it should be me." "That's not happening. It might not be your choice." "Then we'll make sure it doesn't come to that." Evan watched Lily on the swings, her hair flying. Monday, board meeting. We show them that competent people don't fold under pressure. "Okay." Marissa sounded steadier. "Okay, I'll see you there." Monday morning, Evan dressed carefully. Suit, tie, the kind of outfit he almost never wore but that signaled he understood the stakes. He made Lily pancakes, walked her to the bus stop, watched until she was safely on board. Then he drove to Meridian, parked in the garage, rode the elevator to 43. The boardroom was already full. Vance at the head of the table, Henriksen to his right. 6 other executives Evan recognized but had never worked with directly. And Marissa sitting near the end, her expression neutral. Vance saw him first. "Cross, glad you could join us. We were just discussing your timeline projections." Evan took the empty seat across from Marissa. "Happy to answer any questions." "I'm sure you are." Vance pulled up a presentation on the screen. "Because we have quite a few." The meeting had begun, and Evan could feel the trap closing around him. Vance's presentation filled the screen. It was Evan's timeline analysis, but something was wrong. The numbers had been changed, costs inflated by 30%. Completion dates pushed back by 8 weeks. Risk assessments rewritten to make every decision look reckless. "As you can see," Vance said, gesturing to the screen, "Mr. Cross's projections are significantly off base. The concrete pour he's recommending for next week, we'd be looking at a cost overrun of $4.2 million. The foundation timeline he submitted? Completely unrealistic given current weather patterns and labor availability." Evan opened his mouth, but Vance kept talking. "Now, I don't blame Cross entirely. He's an external consultant. Doesn't have the institutional knowledge we do. Doesn't understand the complexities of a project this scale." Vance's tone was reasonable, almost sympathetic. but we can't move forward with recommendations that could sink this entire resort before we break ground. One of the board members, a woman Evan didn't recognize, frowned at the screen. These numbers seem excessive. What's the source data? Cross's own report. Vance clicked to another slide showing what appeared to be email screenshots. He submitted these projections on Friday. We've been reviewing them over the weekend, and frankly, the board needs to be aware of the risks. Evan felt Marissa's eyes on him. He kept his voice level. Those aren't my projections. The room went quiet. Vance turned slowly. I'm sorry? Those numbers. That timeline. That risk assessment. Evan pulled out his laptop, opened it. None of that is what I submitted. The actual projections show concrete costs at $2.8 million with a 3-week timeline and acceptable risk parameters. You're saying I'm lying? Vance's voice carried just the right amount of wounded disbelief. I'm saying someone altered my report. Evan turned his laptop toward the board. This is what I submitted Friday at 4:30 p.m. Time-stamped. Saved in 3 locations. Would you like me to email it to everyone here so you can compare? Henriksen leaned forward. With all due respect, Cross, you could have created that version this morning. The one Vance is showing came directly from the shared project drive. Then someone changed it after I uploaded it. Evan looked at each board member in turn. I can provide the original file metadata, the submission timestamp, and the access logs showing who viewed or modified the document after I left Friday. Vance's expression flickered. Just for a second. Then the reasonable mask was back. I think what we're seeing here is a consultant who's scrambling to cover mistakes. The shared drive shows his submission. If he's claiming it was altered, that's a serious accusation that requires serious proof. I have proof. Evan opened his email, pulled up the message he'd sent himself Friday. Original document sent to my personal email at 4:32 p.m. Friday. Complete with metadata. I can forward it to everyone right now if you'd like. The board member who'd questioned the numbers spoke again. I think we should see both versions, side by side. Marissa finally spoke. I agree. And I'd like to see the access logs for the shared drive. They're automatically generated. Should show exactly who opened or modified the file and when. Vance's jaw tightened. I don't think we need to turn this into an investigation. Cross made errors. He's trying to deflect. Let's not waste the board's time with conspiracy theories. It's not a conspiracy theory if the logs prove it. Marissa's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. The access logs are public record for anyone with administrative privileges. I pulled them this morning as part of my routine review. She opened her own tablet, pulled up a document. Cross's file was accessed at 11:15 p.m. Friday, modified at 11:43 p.m. The user ID belongs to Todd Henriksen. The room exploded. Henriksen shot to his feet. That's absurd. I was nowhere near the office Friday night. The access was remote, from an IP address registered to your home. Marissa didn't raise her voice. Would you like me to show the board the full log? It includes not just the modification, but a copy operation where the altered file was saved over the original. Henriksen looked at Vance. Something passed between them. This is a setup. Lang has been looking for ways to undermine us since Cross started seeing her. This whole thing is a fabrication. Then explain the access logs. The board member's voice was ice. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like someone deliberately sabotaged a consultant's work to make him look incompetent. Vance tried to regain control. I think emotions are running high. Perhaps we should table this discussion until... No. Another board member spoke. An older man Evan recognized as CFO. I want to see Cross's original document. I want to see the altered version, and I want an explanation for why anyone on our executive team would modify a consultant's report without authorization. Evan forwarded his original file to the entire board. It took 3 minutes for them to compare. The differences were stark. His projections were reasonable, conservative even. The altered version was designed to look like the work of someone who had no idea what they were doing. Who else knew about these projections? The CFO asked. Just the executive team, Evan said. I submitted them to the shared drive as requested. Access was restricted to directors and above. And you discussed them with anyone? I discussed the methodology with Miss Lang during our site inspection. She reviewed my calculations and confirmed they were sound. The board member who'd been asking questions turned to Marissa. Is that accurate? Yes. Cross's work is consistently thorough and well documented. His projections for the concrete pour are not only accurate but conservative. If anything, he's built in more contingency than necessary. Marissa met Vance's eyes, which is why I was surprised when I saw the version presented this morning. It bore no resemblance to the quality of work Cross has delivered for 6 months. Vance stood. I think what we're seeing here is exactly what I warned the board about. A consultant who's become personally involved with a senior executive who's now being defended regardless of the quality of his work. This is a conflict of interest that compromises both of their judgment. I filed a formal disclosure about our relationship 2 weeks ago, Marissa said. It's on record with HR and legal. We're not in violation of any policy. That's not the point. Vance's voice rose slightly. The point is that Lang is so invested in protecting Cross that she's willing to fabricate evidence and accuse other executives of misconduct. I'm not fabricating anything. The access logs are generated automatically by the system. I didn't create them. I just read them. Marissa's calm was devastating. If you're claiming the logs are wrong, take it up with IT. But the timestamp and user ID are facts. The CFO closed his laptop. Vance, Henriksen, I need to speak with you both, privately, now. They left. The remaining board members looked at each other, then at Evan and Marissa. Mr. Cross, the woman who'd asked the first question said, I apologize that you were put in this position. Your work has been excellent. This should never have happened. Evan nodded. Thank you. Ms. Lang, can you send me the full access logs? I want it to verify them independently. Already done. I sent them to the full board and IT this morning. Marissa stood. If there's nothing else, I have a meeting with the resort architects. Outside the boardroom, Evan waited until they were alone in the hallway. You knew about the altered file. I suspected. Vance's pattern is always the same. Undermine credibility first, then discredit the person. Marissa kept walking toward her office. So I checked the access log Sunday night, saw Henriksen's modification, pulled the metadata. You could have warned me. You needed to react authentically. If you'd known about the alteration, your response might have looked rehearsed. She stopped at her office door. I'm sorry, I know that's manipulative, but Vance was watching for any sign we'd coordinated our response. Evan understood. Didn't like it, but understood. What happens now? Now the board investigates. It confirms the logs. Henriksen gets thrown under the bus to protect Vance. Marissa unlocked her office. And we wait for the next move. Because this isn't over. She was right. By noon, Henriksen was on administrative leave pending investigation. The official statement said he'd violated document security protocols. No mention of deliberate sabotage or conspiracy. Vance sent an email to the executive team praising the board's swift action and emphasizing Meridian's commitment to integrity. The hypocrisy was staggering. Evan's phone rang at 1. Unknown number. Mr. Cross, this is Rebecca Chen from the State Licensing Board. I need to speak with you about a complaint we received regarding your engineering credentials. Evan's blood went cold. What kind of complaint? Someone submitted documentation suggesting you falsified your degree from State University, that the engineering credentials listed on your consulting contract may be fraudulent. Her voice was professional, detached. We're required to investigate all such complaints. I'll need you to provide original transcripts, degree certification, and verification of your professional experience. My credentials are valid. I can provide everything you need. I'm sure you can, but until the investigation is complete, I'm required to inform you that you may not present yourself as a licensed engineer or perform any work requiring such licensure. She paused. Do you understand what that means for your current contracts? It means I can't work. Evan sat down hard. How long does an investigation take? Typically 4 to 6 weeks. Longer if the documentation is complex or if additional complaints are filed. Who filed the complaint? That information is confidential. I can only tell you that it came from someone with knowledge of your work history. Chen's tone softened slightly. Look, Mr. Cross, between you and me, these kinds of complaints are usually baseless, but we have to investigate every one. It's the law.
After she hung up, Evan sat in his temporary office and felt the walls closing in. No license meant no consulting work. No work meant no income.
He had savings, but not 6 weeks' worth. Not with Lily's daycare and the mortgage and everything else. His phone buzzed. Text from Marissa. Did you get a call from the licensing board? How did you know? Because I got one too. Different complaint. Someone claimed I've been awarding contracts based on personal relationships instead of merit. Another text came through. They're not subtle. This is Vance. Evan called her. What do we do? We provide the documentation they need, we prove the complaints are baseless, and we keep working. Marissa sounded tired. I'm not suspended pending investigation because I'm not under direct licensing, but you are. You'll need to step back from any engineering work until this is resolved. That's my entire contract. I know, I'm sorry. She was quiet for a moment. I have an attorney, corporate litigation specialist. She's good. I'm going to call her, see if she can expedite the investigation or at least get you a temporary clearance to continue working. That'll cost money I don't have right now. Then I'll pay for it. Marissa, this is my fault. I knew Vance would escalate. I should have anticipated this. Her voice was fierce. Let me help. Please. Evan wanted to refuse, wanted to say he'd handle it himself. But he thought about Lily, about the mortgage payment due in 2 weeks, about what would happen if he lost everything because of pride. Okay, he said quietly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're not out of this. She paused. Can you come to my office? I need to show you something. Marissa's office was on 41, corner suite, with windows overlooking the city. Evan had never been inside before. It was efficient, organized, with exactly 3 personal items visible. A photo of an older couple who must be her parents, a small sculpture of a bird in flight, and a framed quote on the wall that read, "Well-behaved women seldom make history." She closed the door behind him, locked it, pulled up something on her computer. I told you I've been documenting Vance's pattern for 3 years, she said. What I didn't tell you is what I found last month. On her screen was a financial document. Evan leaned closer, trying to make sense of it. That's a wire transfer, Marissa explained, from Meridian's construction budget to an offshore account, $800,000, authorized by Vance, approved by Henriksen, buried in the resort project expenses as equipment costs. They're embezzling. They're skimming, taking money meant for construction and redirecting it. I found 4 more transfers like this. Total of $3.2 million over 18 months. Marissa pulled up more documents. They've been doing it carefully, small amounts relative to the overall budget, buried in legitimate-looking expense categories. But it's there if you know what to look for. Evan stared at the screen. Why haven't you reported this? Because I needed proof they'd done it before. 1 transfer could be a mistake. 5 is a pattern. But a pattern requires historical data. She minimized the window. I've been waiting for the right moment, when I had enough evidence that they couldn't explain it away. Is this the right moment? I don't know. If we report it now, while they're actively attacking us, it looks like retaliation, like we're making up accusations to deflect from their complaints. Marissa sat back in her chair. But if we wait, they might move the money, cover their tracks, make it impossible to prove. So we're stuck. We're choosing between bad options. She met his eyes. If we report the embezzlement, the board investigates everyone involved in the resort project. That includes you. They'll tear apart every decision, every expense, every timeline, looking for proof that we were all in on it together. But I wasn't. I know. But perception matters. And right now, they've already planted the seed that your work is compromised because of our relationship. Marissa's voice was steady, but he could hear the frustration underneath. If we add financial fraud to the mix, even your clean hands might not be enough to protect you. Evan walked to the window, looked out at the city spreading below. 41 floors up, everything looked small, manageable, like you could see the patterns and plan accordingly. But down there, in the actual streets, nothing was that simple. What if we're thinking about this wrong? He said. What do you mean? Vance and Henriksen are coming at us from multiple angles. The altered document, the licensing complaints, probably more we haven't seen yet. Evan turned back to face her. But all of it is designed to isolate us, make us defensive, Force us to spend all our energy protecting ourselves instead of fighting back. Yes, that's his pattern. So what if we don't play defense? Evan walked back to her desk. What if we go on offense? Not with the embezzlement, that's too risky right now, but with something they can't explain away. Marissa's eyes sharpened. I'm listening. The resort site. There are safety violations, real ones. The contractor is cutting corners to make up time lost from the hollow beam issue. I've documented 7 violations in the last 2 weeks alone. Evan pulled out his phone, showed her photos. Improper scaffolding, inadequate fall protection, electrical work that doesn't meet code. None of it is Vance's direct responsibility, but he's the director of operations. He signs off on all contractor compliance. If we report safety violations, the site gets shut down pending inspection. Exactly. And a shutdown means delays, cost overruns. Exactly what Vance was trying to pin on me with the altered document. Evan felt the pieces coming together. But this time it's real, documented, photographed, time-stamped. It's not retaliation or fabrication. It's legitimate safety concerns raised by a consultant doing his job. Marissa was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. Actually smiled. You're right. That's perfect. It'll make Vance furious. Good. Furious people make mistakes. She pulled up a new document. Draft the safety report. Every violation, every photo, every regulation that's being broken. I'll file it with the board and copy the State Safety Commission. Once it's on official record, Vance can't bury it. Evan spent the next 3 hours writing the most thorough safety report of his career. 12 pages. 47 photos. Citations for every code violation. Recommendations for immediate remediation. He sent it to Marissa at 5. She read it, made 2 small edits, then forwarded it to the board with a cover memo emphasizing the urgency and liability exposure. At 5:30, Evan left to pick up Lily. His phone started ringing before he reached his truck. Vance. He let it go to voicemail. The message was brief. You just made the biggest mistake of your career, Cross. Call me. Evan deleted it. Drove to the daycare. Lily was waiting with a painting she'd made in art class. Abstract swirls of blue and purple and gold. It's the ocean, she explained, with magic in it. It's beautiful. At home, he made dinner while Lily did homework. She had a math worksheet that was giving her trouble. Evan sat with her, worked through the problems one by one, let her figure out the answers instead of just telling her. Daddy, are you still having problems at work? She asked while they ate. Yeah, but I'm handling it. Is the lady you had dinner with helping you? Evan paused. How do you know about her? Miss Sarah told me you went on a date. She said dates are when grown-ups try to figure out if they like each other. Lily took a bite of chicken. Do you like her? I do. Is she nice? She's very smart and strong, and she doesn't let people push her around. Lily considered this seriously. I think that's good. You shouldn't let people push you around either. I'm trying not to. Good. She went back to her dinner, apparently satisfied. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Evan checked his email. 3 messages from contractors asking about the safety report, 2 from board members requesting additional documentation. 1 from Marissa with a single line, Safety Commission confirmed receipt, inspection scheduled for Wednesday. His phone rang. Vance again. This time Evan answered. What do you want? I want you to understand something, Cross. Vance's voice was cold. You think you're clever, filing safety complaints, hiding behind regulations, but all you've done is guarantee that this site shuts down. That means delays, losses, and someone has to be responsible for that. The person responsible is whoever allowed the violations in the first place. That's you. You're the consultant. You were supposed to be monitoring safety compliance. Vance's tone turned satisfied. Every one of those violations happened on your watch, which means either you're incompetent for not catching them sooner, or you're malicious for only reporting them now. Either way, your career is over. Evan felt the trap snap shut. Vance was right. The violations had been happening for weeks. Evan had documented them, but hadn't formally reported them because he'd been focused on timeline issues. Now it looked like he'd sat on critical safety information until he needed ammunition. I documented them as they occurred, Evan said carefully. I informed the site supervisor each time. He assured me they'd be corrected. But you didn't file a formal report with the state. You didn't escalate to the board. You just took the supervisor's word for it. Vance laughed, sharp and cruel. That's negligence at minimum, professional misconduct at worst. The licensing board is going to love hearing about this. The licensing board already has a complaint from you. That complaint's nothing compared to what's coming. By the time I'm done, you won't just lose your license. You'll be unemployable. Vance's voice dropped. And Lang? She'll throw you under the bus to save herself. She always does. You're not special, Cross. You're just convenient. He hung up. Evan sat in the dark of his living room and felt the full weight of what he'd done. Vance was right. The safety report that was supposed to be ammunition had turned into a weapon pointed at himself. His phone buzzed. Text from Marissa. Are you okay? Vance called me screaming about the safety report. What did you tell him? That Cross was doing his job and I supported him completely. That if he had a problem with safety compliance being reported, he should take it up with the state commission. Another text. He threatened to have me removed from the project for conflict of interest. Can he do that? He can try. But the board would have to approve it, and after the altered document incident, they're not inclined to do him any favors. She sent a third message. Evan, whatever he said to you, don't believe it. We're going to get through this. He said you'd throw me under the bus to save yourself. The phone rang. Marissa, not texting anymore. That's what he wants you to think, she said when he answered. He wants to drive a wedge between us. Make you doubt me. Convince you that you're alone in this. Maybe I should be. Maybe this is too much risk for you. Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't you dare walk away because Vance played on your insecurities. That's exactly what he wants. He's not wrong, though. Every one of those safety violations happened while I was on site. I documented them, but I didn't formally report them. That's on me. You informed the supervisor. That's protocol. The supervisor is responsible for remediation and escalation, not you. Marissa took a breath. But Vance is going to twist it. Make it look like you were covering up safety issues to protect your timeline projections. That you only reported them now because you needed leverage against him. That's what it looks like. From one angle, yes. But from another angle, it looks like a consultant who was doing his job, following proper channels, and only escalated when it became clear the supervisor wasn't taking action. Her voice steadied. We just need to control which angle the board sees. How? By providing context. The dates you documented each violation. The emails you sent to the supervisor, his responses claiming he'd fix them. The follow-up documentation showing the violations continued. She paused. You did document all of that, right? Evan closed his eyes. Most of it. The photos are time-stamped, but I didn't email the supervisor every time. Some of it was verbal communication on site. Verbal communication with witnesses? The construction crew, but they're not going to testify against their own supervisor. Maybe not voluntarily, but if the state commission interviews them as part of the safety investigation, they'll have to tell the truth. Marissa was quiet for a moment. This isn't as bad as Vance wants you to think. We can work with this. He also said the licensing complaint is nothing compared to what's coming. Let him try. We'll fight every accusation with documentation and facts. Her voice turned fierce. I meant what I said, Evan. I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm not walking away. We're in this together. Evan wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that someone with her position and power would actually stand by a contractor who was quickly becoming a liability. But he'd learned a long time ago that people protected themselves first, that loyalty was conditional, that when the pressure got high enough, everyone broke. Thank you, he said quietly, for everything you're doing. Don't thank me yet. Wednesday's inspection is going to be brutal. The state commission doesn't play games. If they find violations, the site shuts down. If they find evidence of negligence, everyone involved gets scrutinized. She took a breath. Including me. I signed off on contractor selection. If they determine I didn't do proper due diligence, my judgment gets questioned. I didn't think about that. I did, and I filed the report anyway. Marissa's voice softened. Because some things matter more than career protection. Like making sure construction workers don't die because someone cut corners to save money. They talked for another 20 minutes. Strategy for the inspection, documentation to prepare, potential responses to different outcomes. By the time Evan hung up, it was past 11. He should sleep, should rest before whatever storm Wednesday brought. Instead, he opened his laptop and started compiling every piece of evidence he had. Photos, emails, timeline documents, contractor correspondence, everything organized by date and violation type. If they were going to come after him, he'd make them work for it. Tuesday morning started with an email from HR. Subject line? Mandatory meeting, workplace conduct. Evan read it twice. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. Attendance required, no agenda provided. He forwarded it to Marissa. She called immediately. "Don't go alone," she said. "You have the right to bring representation." "I don't have an attorney." "Use mine. I'll call her right now. Have her meet you at the office." Marissa's voice was tight. "This is it. This is where they try to force you out. They'll have HR present, make it look official, and they'll either demand your resignation or present some kind of severance agreement that requires you to sign away your right to sue." "I'm not signing anything." "Good. Don't. Not without the attorney reviewing it first." She paused. "I'm going to try to attend the meeting. They might block me, claim conflict of interest, but I'm going to try." The attorney's name was Jennifer Park. She met Evan in the Meridian lobby at 1:30, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a briefcase that looked like it cost more than Evan's truck. "Marissa filled me in," she said without preamble. "Here's what's going to happen. HR will present allegations. You will listen without responding. They will ask you questions. You will defer to me. If they present documents, you will not sign anything. If they make offers, you will not accept anything. Understood?" "Understood." "Good. Let's go remind these people that wrongful termination lawsuits are expensive." The meeting was in a conference room on 39. Evan, Jennifer, and an HR representative named Michael Torres who looked deeply uncomfortable. No Marissa, no Vance, just the three of them and a stack of documents on the table. "Mr. Cross, thank you for coming," Torres began. "I want to assure you that this meeting is purely procedural." "Let's skip the preamble," Jennifer interrupted. "What are the allegations?" Torres glanced at her, then at Evan. "We've received multiple complaints regarding Mr. Cross's professional conduct, specifically regarding his relationship with Vice President Lang and whether it has created conflicts of interest or compromised his work product." "Ms. Lang filed a formal disclosure of their relationship 2 weeks ago," Jennifer said. "It's on record with your department. What's the issue?" "The issue is timing. The relationship began before the disclosure was filed, and there are questions about whether Mr. Cross has received preferential treatment in contract renewals or work assignments as a result of the relationship." Evan started to speak, but Jennifer touched his arm. "Provide evidence of preferential treatment," she said to Torres. "We have witness statements from other executives, names and statements, in writing." Torres shuffled through his papers, pulled out 2 printed emails. Evan recognized the names immediately, Vance and Henriksen. Jennifer read them quickly. "These aren't witness statements. These are allegations without supporting evidence. They claim Mr. Cross received preferential treatment, but provide no examples of what that treatment was or how it differed from standard contractor management." "There's also the matter of the safety report filed yesterday," Torres continued. "Several executives have raised concerns that it was filed as retaliation for the licensing board complaint rather than legitimate safety concerns." "The safety report documents code violations with photographic evidence and timestamps," Jennifer said. "The timing is irrelevant if the violations are real. Are they real, Mr. Torres?" "The State Commission is investigating, which means you don't know yet. So you're holding a meeting to discuss allegations that may or may not be valid filed by executives who have already been caught altering Mr. Cross's work documents." Jennifer leaned forward. "Let me be very clear. If you terminate Mr. Cross's contract based on these allegations, Meridian will be facing a wrongful termination suit. If you constructively discharge him by making his work environment untenable, same result. If you retaliate against him for reporting safety violations, that's a federal violation." Torres looked pale. "We're not trying to terminate anyone. We're just investigating complaints." "Then investigate. But don't waste our time with meetings that are clearly designed to intimidate my client into resigning." Jennifer stood. When you have actual evidence of wrongdoing, call me. Until then, Mr. Cross will continue performing his contracted work to the same excellent standard he's maintained for 6 months. Outside the conference room, Evan exhaled hard. Thank you. Don't thank me. That was easy. Tomorrow's inspection will be harder. Jennifer pulled out her business card, handed it to him. If anyone from Meridian contacts you for any reason, you call me first. Don't answer questions. Don't make statements. Just call. What do I owe you for today? Nothing. Marissa already has me on retainer. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. She thinks highly of you. Says you're one of the few people in that building with actual integrity. Don't make her regret saying that. After Jennifer left, Evan went back to his temporary office, found Marissa waiting. How bad was it? She asked. Torres tried to make it look official. Jennifer dismantled it in about 5 minutes. Evan sat down heavily. They're trying to build a case for termination, or force me to resign. I know. I got pulled into a separate meeting with the CEO. He wanted to know if I thought our relationship was affecting my judgment. Marissa's voice was tight. I told him my judgment was fine, that the person whose judgment should be questioned was Vance, considering he'd authorized an executive to alter consultant documents and file false licensing complaints. What did he say? That the board was taking all allegations seriously and conducting a thorough investigation. She walked to the window. Corporate speak for, we're going to protect our executives and sacrifice whoever's convenient. That's probably me. Not if I have anything to say about it. Marissa turned back to face him. Wednesday's inspection is our best shot. If the Safety Commission finds violations, it proves your report was legitimate. If they don't, Vance gets ammunition to claim you fabricated evidence. They'll find violations. I documented them carefully. I hope you're right. She checked her watch. I need to get back. But Evan, whatever happens tomorrow, don't face it alone. I'll be there. You don't have to eat. I know. I want to. She held his gaze. That's the difference between me and the executives who are trying to destroy you. I choose to be there, not because it's strategic or beneficial, because it's right. After she left, Evan sat in his office until 6. Later than usual, he texted the daycare, arranged for extended hours, and kept working. Reviewed every photo, every document, every piece of evidence that would be scrutinized tomorrow. When he finally picked up Lily at 6:45, she was the last kid there. Sorry, sweetie, he said when she ran to him. Work was complicated today. It's okay. I helped Mrs. Karen organize the art supplies. Lily grabbed his hand. Can we have mac and cheese for dinner? Sure. The kind from the box? Is there any other kind? At home, while the water boiled, Lily sat at the kitchen table and drew. Evan watched her while he stirred pasta, the small person who trusted him completely to keep her world stable and safe. He thought about tomorrow, about the inspection that could either vindicate him or destroy him, about Marissa, standing beside him even though it would be easier to step away, about Vance and Henriksen and every executive who thought power meant you could crush anyone inconvenient. Daddy? Lily looked up from her drawing. You're thinking again. I am. About the mean people? Yeah. Are you going to be okay? Evan knelt down beside her chair. I'm going to try very hard to make sure everything works out right. But even if it doesn't, we'll be okay. You and me. We'll figure it out together. Lily hugged him tight. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetie. That night, after dinner and bath and the dragon book, Evan lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would determine everything, his career, his reputation, his ability to provide for his daughter. But it would also determine something else. Whether he'd been right to trust Marissa, whether she'd stand beside him when the pressure got highest, whether integrity actually mattered in a system designed to reward compromise. He thought about Lily's question. Are you scared? Yes. He was terrified. But being scared doesn't mean you can't do the right thing. Tomorrow, he'd find out if doing the right thing was enough. Wednesday morning brought rain, heavy sheets of it that turned the resort site into a mud pit and made every surface slick and dangerous. Evan drove through it with his windshield wipers on high, watching the road disappear and reappear through the downpour. Perfect conditions for a safety inspection. If anything was going to fail, it would fail today. He arrived at 7. The state commission inspectors were already there, 3 of them in yellow rain gear, setting up equipment under a temporary canopy. Evan recognized the lead inspector from previous projects, a woman named Rita Gonzalez, who had a reputation for being thorough and completely immune to executive charm. Marissa's car pulled in behind his. She got out wearing boots and a rain jacket, her hair already plastered to her head by the time she reached the canopy. "You didn't have to come," Evan said. "Yes, I did." She nodded to the inspectors. "Rita, thank you for coming on such short notice." Rita looked up from her tablet. "Lang, didn't expect to see you here. I signed off on the contractor selection. If there are violations, I want to understand what we missed in vetting." Marissa's voice was professional, calm. "Mr. Cross filed the safety report. He'll walk you through each documented violation." "Good. Let's get started." Rita gestured to her team. "We'll begin with the scaffolding on the north foundation. Your report claimed improper load ratings and missing fall protection." They spent the next hour in the rain. Evan led them through each violation, showing them the photos he'd taken, the dates he'd documented them, the emails he'd sent to the site supervisor requesting remediation. The inspectors measured, photographed, and made notes without comment. At the scaffolding, Rita climbed up herself despite the rain, tested the connections, checked the load rating stamped on the equipment against what was actually being supported. "This is rated for 1,200 pounds, she called down. "You've got at least 2,000 up here." "That's what I documented 3 weeks ago," Evan shouted back. "Supervisor said he'd replace it with proper equipment." Rita climbed down, water streaming off her jacket. "He didn't. That's a critical violation. One wrong shift and this whole thing collapses." She made a note on her tablet. "What else?" They moved to the electrical work. Exposed wiring in an excavation that regularly flooded. Junction boxes that weren't rated for outdoor use. Extension cords running through standing water. "Who approved this installation?" Rita asked. "I didn't approve it. I documented it as a violation." Evan pulled up the photo from 2 weeks ago. Same supervisor, same response, said he'd fix it. By 10 o'clock, they'd confirmed 6 of the 7 violations Evan had reported. The 7th, inadequate trench shoring, couldn't be verified because the contractor had apparently corrected it sometime between Monday evening and this morning. "Interesting timing," Rita said, making another note. "Let's talk to the supervisor." The supervisor's name was Mike Brennan. He met them at the site trailer, clearly unhappy about being pulled from his morning routine. "Mr. Brennan," Rita began, "we've documented 6 critical safety violations on this site. Mr. Cross claims he reported these to you verbally over the past several weeks and that you assured him they'd be corrected. Is that accurate?" Brennan's eyes flicked to Evan, then away. "Cross isn't my supervisor. He's a consultant. He doesn't have authority to tell my crew what to do. He has authority to report safety violations. Did he or did he not inform you about these issues?" "He mentioned some concerns. I told him we'd look into it when we had time." Brennan crossed his arms. "We're on a tight schedule. Can't stop work every time someone thinks they see a problem." "These aren't perceived problems. These are code violations." Rita turned her tablet to show him the photos. "This scaffolding could kill someone. This electrical work is a disaster waiting to happen. You told Mr. Cross you'd fix them." "I said I'd look into it. That's not the same as promising to fix them immediately." Brennan's voice turned defensive. "And if Cross was so concerned, why didn't he file a formal report weeks ago? Why wait until now?" Evan stepped forward. "I followed protocol. Verbal report to the site supervisor, documented with photos and timestamps, with the expectation that you'd escalate to the contractor if immediate action wasn't possible. That's standard procedure. Standard procedure is to file with the state if you see critical violations, not wait 3 weeks and then drop a bomb right before an inspection." Brennan looked at Rita. "Seems like someone had an agenda here." Well, Rita's expression didn't change. "Whether Mr. Cross had an agenda is irrelevant. The violations exist. They're documented. You were informed. You didn't act." She made another note.
I'm shutting down this site pending full remediation and reinspection. You can't do that. I just did. Everyone off site in 30 minutes. Nothing moves until every violation is corrected and verified. Rita looked at Marissa. You'll need to notify your executives. This is going to delay your timeline significantly. Marissa nodded. Understood. Safety comes first. Brennan was furious. This is bullshit. Cross orchestrated this whole thing to make me look bad because he's sleeping with the VP and needed to prove he's valuable. Rita turned to him slowly. Excuse me? Everyone knows they're dating. This whole inspection is just cover for their relationship. He reports violations he could have reported weeks ago. She backs him up, and I'm the one who gets blamed. Brennan pointed at Evan. He's the one who should be investigated, not me. The violations are real, Rita said coldly. I don't care about office politics or who's dating who. I care that you have workers on scaffolding that could collapse and electrical systems that could electrocute someone. So you can either accept responsibility for failing to maintain a safe site, or you can keep talking and I'll recommend the state pull your contractor license entirely. Brennan shut up. The rain got heavier. Rita finished her inspection by noon, issued the shutdown order, and left with a promise to return in 1 week for reinspection. The construction crew packed up, angry and confused about why they were being sent home. Evan stood under the canopy watching them go. His phone had been buzzing constantly for the last hour. Vance, Henriksen, 3 board members. He ignored all of them. Marissa appeared beside him. The CEO wants an emergency meeting, 4 o'clock, both of us.
What's he going to say? That the shutdown is costing the company money, that someone needs to be held accountable, that this entire situation has gotten out of control. She turned to look at him. He's going to ask me to choose between my career and standing by you. Evan felt something cold settle in his chest. What are you going to tell him? That I already made my choice. She said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I filed that disclosure 2 weeks ago. I stood in that board meeting and presented evidence that Henriksen altered your documents. I supported your safety report even knowing it would trigger exactly this situation. I'm not going to back down now because it's gotten expensive. Marissa, don't. She held up a hand. Don't tell me I don't have to do this. Don't tell me I should protect myself. I know the risks. I've known them from the beginning. Her eyes were fierce. What matters is whether we were right. And we were. Those violations were real. Workers could have died. That's more important than timelines or budgets or executive politics. They drove back separately. Evan went home to shower and change, found Lily at Miss Sarah's because the daycare had an early closure for teacher training. How was your day? Sarah asked when she let him in. Complicated. Is Lily okay here for a few more hours? Of course. We're making cookies. She's having a wonderful time. Sarah studied his face. You look exhausted. I am, but I can't rest yet. Whatever you're dealing with, Evan, remember that you're a good man. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. He found Lily in the kitchen, covered in flour and chocolate chips. She ran to him immediately. Daddy, we're making double chocolate cookies. I can see that. He knelt down, hugged her tight. I have to go back to work for a few more hours. Is it okay if you stay with Miss Sarah? Can I bring you a cookie when you come back? Absolutely. Okay then. She kissed his cheek, leaving a flour mark. Don't worry so much, Daddy. Everything's going to be fine. If only she was right. The emergency meeting was in the CEO's office. Evan had never been there before. It was massive, all dark wood and leather furniture and a view that made Marissa's corner office look modest. James Rothwell, the CEO, sat behind his desk like a judge preparing to deliver a verdict. Vance and Henriksen stood to one side. The CFO and general counsel sat in chairs against the wall. Marissa took a seat at the conference table. Evan sat beside her. Let's be direct, Rothwell began. This resort shutdown is costing us approximately $200,000 per day. The state inspection found violations that Mr. Cross claims he reported weeks ago, but only filed formally 2 days ago. The timing, combined with ongoing allegations about Mr. Cross's relationship with Ms. Lang, creates serious questions about judgment and motivation. The violations were real, Evan said, documented with time-stamped photos and emails to the site supervisor requesting remediation. But you didn't file a formal report until Monday, after receiving a licensing board complaint, after having your work documents altered by Mr. Henriksen, after this entire situation became contentious. Rothwell looked at him steadily. You can see how that creates the appearance of retaliation rather than legitimate safety concerns. Appearance doesn't change the facts. The scaffolding was overloaded. The electrical work was dangerous. Those violations existed regardless of when I reported them. But the timing matters, Mr. Cross. Intent matters. Rothwell turned to Marissa. Ms. Lang, you've been a valued executive here for 8 years. Your judgment has been consistently excellent. But your support of Mr. Cross throughout this situation, the disclosed relationship, the defense at the board meeting, your presence at today's inspection, it creates concerns about objectivity. My objectivity is fine, Marissa said calmly. I reviewed Mr. Cross's work independently before I ever agreed to have dinner with him. His safety report was legitimate whether we were dating or not. The state inspection confirmed that. The state inspection also raised questions about why those violations existed for weeks without formal reporting. Because Mr. Cross followed standard protocol. He reported to the site supervisor. The supervisor failed to act. When it became clear the violations would continue, Mr. Cross escalated appropriately. Marissa's voice was steady, but Evan could hear the tension underneath. If you're looking for someone to blame, blame the supervisor who ignored safety concerns. Or blame the executives who hired a contractor that cuts corners. Don't blame the consultant who did his job correctly. Vance stepped forward. With all due respect, this isn't about blame. It's about trust. And right now we have a consultant who's romantically involved with a VP, who's been accused of receiving preferential treatment, who filed a safety report that looks suspiciously like retaliation, and who's cost this company millions in delays. He paused. How can we trust that any of his work is objective? You can trust it because it's documented and verifiable, Marissa shot back. Unlike your work, Vance, which includes altering consultant reports and filing false licensing complaints. I never altered anything. Henriksen altered the document on your behalf. The access logs prove it. Don't insult everyone's intelligence by pretending you weren't involved. Rothwell held up a hand. Enough. This isn't productive. He looked at Marissa. Ms. Lang, I'm going to ask you a direct question. If you had to choose between your position here and your relationship with Mr. Cross, what would you choose? The room went silent. Evan felt his heart stop. This was it. The moment Vance had been engineering from the beginning. Force Marissa to choose. Make her decide whether one contractor was worth her entire career. She'd walk away. She had to. It was the logical choice. The safe choice. Marissa stood. That's a false choice. My relationship with Mr. Cross doesn't affect my ability to do my job. I've disclosed it properly. We're not in a reporting relationship. There's no policy violation. She met Rothwell's eyes. But if you're asking whether I'll throw him under the bus to protect myself, the answer is no. I won't participate in a witch hunt designed to protect executives who've actually violated company policies. That sounds like you're choosing him over Meridian. I'm choosing integrity over politics. If Meridian can't tell the difference, then maybe I'm not the right fit here anymore. Vance looked triumphant. So you're resigning. I'm saying I won't compromise my principles to make your vendetta easier. Marissa turned to Rothwell. Mr. Cross did nothing wrong. He documented safety violations. He reported them appropriately. He filed formally when it became clear they weren't being addressed. The state inspection confirmed every single violation he reported. That's not retaliation. That's competence. It's also convenient timing. Life is full of convenient timing. That doesn't make it conspiracy. Marissa's voice turned hard. And while we're discussing timing, perhaps we should discuss the timing of the licensing board complaints. Filed immediately after Mr. Cross refused to end our relationship when Henriksen demanded it. That seems far more retaliatory than anything Mr. Cross has done. The general counsel, who'd been silent until now, leaned forward. Wait, Henriksen demanded what? Evan spoke up. He came to my office Tuesday morning, offered to withdraw the false harassment complaint if I stopped seeing Marissa. I refused. The licensing board complaint was filed that afternoon. That's extortion, the general counsel said flatly. That's explicitly illegal. It's also documented, Marissa added. Security footage shows Henriksen entering Mr. Cross's office. The conversation lasted 12 minutes. Mr. Cross documented it immediately afterward and sent it to me and to his personal backup accounts. Rothwell looked at Henriksen. Is this true? I was trying to help, Henriksen said quickly. Cross was getting in over his head. I offered him a way out. By threatening to maintain a false complaint if he didn't comply with your demands. The general counsel shook his head. That's not help, that's coercion. Vance tried to redirect. This is all beside the point. The point is that we have a $200,000 per day shutdown because of a safety report that was completely legitimate, Rothwell interrupted. I've read the State Commission's findings. The violations were real, critical, dangerous. He looked at Vance. Why wasn't I informed about these violations when they were first discovered? Cross didn't file a formal. Cross reported to the site supervisor. Who reports to you? Rothwell's voice was ice. You're the director of operations. Site safety is your responsibility. These violations existed for weeks. Either you knew about them and didn't act, or you didn't know about them, which means you're not doing your job. Which is it? Vance's face went red. I oversee hundreds of projects. I can't personally monitor every site. But you can personally orchestrate the alteration of consultant documents, personally coordinate licensing board complaints, personally corner consultants in elevators to intimidate them? Rothwell stood. I've been patient because you've delivered results, but this situation has revealed a pattern of behavior that I can't ignore. James, you can't seriously be considering. I'm considering everything. Rothwell looked at the general counsel. I want a full investigation, the altered documents, the licensing complaints, the safety violations, the extortion attempt, all of it. Independent investigators, full access to company systems, and immunity for anyone who cooperates. Vance and Henriksen exchanged looks. Evan could see the calculation happening. Fight and risk the investigation exposing everything, or retreat and try to control the damage. That seems excessive, Vance said carefully. Over what amounts to interpersonal conflicts and timing questions. It seems necessary, Rothwell corrected, because right now I have a state safety commission asking why my director of operations allowed critical violations to continue for weeks. I have HR complaints that appear to be retaliatory. I have evidence that executive staff altered consultant work products. He paused. And I have a very good lawyer telling me that if I don't investigate this thoroughly, Meridian could be facing multiple lawsuits. The general counsel nodded. Wrongful termination if Mr. Cross is fired. Hostile work environment if the pattern continues. Possibly federal charges if the safety violations resulted from deliberate negligence. She looked at Evan. Mr. Cross, I strongly encourage you to cooperate with the investigation. Full transparency. Every document, email, and recording you have. I will, Evan said. Ms. Lang, same for you. Of course, Rothwell sat back down. The investigation starts tomorrow. Until it's complete, Mr. Vance, you're on administrative leave. Mr. Henriksen, you're suspended without pay pending review of the extortion allegations. He looked at Marissa and Evan. You two will continue your work as normal. The relationship disclosure remains on file. If anything changes, report it immediately. After the meeting, Evan and Marissa walked out together. Neither spoke until they reached the parking garage. You didn't have to do that, Evan said quietly. Stand up like that. Risk everything. Yes, I did. Marissa unlocked her car. Because you were right, and because I'm tired of watching men like Vance destroy people and face no consequences. He's on administrative leave, not fired. Not yet, but the investigation will find the embezzlement. I made sure of it. She met his eyes. I sent the financial documents to the general counsel this morning, anonymously, untraceable, but detailed enough that they can't ignore it once they start looking. Evan felt something shift. You played the long game. I played the only game that had a chance of winning. Marissa climbed into her car. Vance made a mistake when he went after you. He assumed I'd protect myself over doing what's right. He was wrong. She drove away, leaving Evan standing in the parking garage, trying to process everything that had just happened. Vance suspended. Henriksen under investigation. An independent review that would expose everything. It felt like winning. But Evan had learned not to trust that feeling. Not yet. His phone rang. Rita Gonzalez from the State Commission. Mr. Cross, I have some additional questions about the timeline of your safety reports. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? Of course. What do you need? I need to understand why a consultant with your experience waited 3 weeks to file a formal report on critical violations. The supervisor claims you never expressed urgency, that you treated them as minor concerns. Rita's voice was professional but probing. I need to know if that's accurate. Evan's stomach dropped. It's not accurate. I documented each violation as critical. I requested immediate remediation. But you have no written record of requesting immediate action, just photos and verbal reports to the supervisor. Rita paused. Mr. Cross, I want to believe you, but I need documentation that shows you understood these were critical violations and demanded urgent action. Otherwise, it looks like you sat on this information. I have emails, timestamps on the photos showing when I discovered each violation, documentation of the supervisor's responses claiming he'd fix them. But nothing showing you escalated when he didn't. Nothing showing you went over his head or filed with the state, or even sent a formal memo demanding action. Rita sighed. I'm not trying to make your life difficult, but the contractor is claiming you're exaggerating the severity to cover up your own negligence in not reporting sooner. I need evidence to counter that. After the call, Evan sat in his truck and went through every email, every document, every piece of evidence he had. Rita was right. He had photos, he had timestamps. He had the supervisor's verbal assurances that he'd fix things. But he didn't have documentation showing he'd demanded immediate action, didn't have emails escalating to Vance or the board, didn't have formal memos creating a paper trail of urgency. He'd followed protocol. But protocol wasn't enough when someone was determined to make you look negligent. His phone buzzed. Text from Marissa. How did it go with Rita? She needs more documentation than I have. The contractor is claiming I downplayed the violations. Can you prove you didn't? Not definitively. I have photos and timestamps, but no written demands for immediate action. Marissa called immediately. Okay, we need to find witnesses, construction crew members who heard you talking to the supervisor, who saw you documenting violations, who can testify that you clearly communicated urgency. They won't testify against their supervisor. He controls their employment. Then we find the ones he already fired, the ones who have nothing to lose. Her voice was sharp, focused. I'll get the HR records. Find out who worked that site and left in the last month. Some of them must have seen something. Marissa, this is starting to feel desperate. It is desperate. Vance is suspended, not gone. The investigation might take months, and in the meantime, the contractor is building a case that you're negligent. She paused. We need to move faster than they do. That night, Evan picked up Lily from Miss Sarah's. She had a plate of cookies wrapped in foil. These are for you, she said proudly. I made them myself. Well, Miss Sarah helped, but I did all the stirring. Thank you, sweetie. They look perfect. At home, he tried to focus on being present, helped with homework, made dinner, read the dragon book. But his mind kept circling back to Rita's questions, to the contractor's claims, to the investigation that could still go either way. After Lily was asleep, he opened his laptop and started documenting everything again, every conversation with the supervisor, every detail he could remember about when and how he'd reported violations, every piece of context that might prove he'd acted appropriately. At midnight, Marissa sent him a list of names, former construction workers from the resort site, 12 of them who'd left or been fired in the last 6 weeks. Start calling tomorrow, her message said. Find out what they saw. Get them on record. Evan looked at the list. Most of the names he recognized. Hard workers who'd been let go for minor infractions or performance issues that probably just meant they'd questioned something the supervisor did. He started writing a script. What to say? How to ask? How to convince them that their testimony mattered? His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Cross? A man's voice, hesitant. This is Danny Reyes. I worked the resort site until 2 weeks ago. I heard you filed a safety report. I did. Good. Because that site was a death trap. Brennan kept cutting corners, telling us to work faster, ignore the violations. Danny's voice strengthened. I got fired for refusing to work on that scaffolding. Told him it wasn't safe. He said I was being dramatic and let me go. Evan's heart rate picked up. Would you be willing to testify to that? To tell the state commission what you saw? If it means Brennan finally faces consequences for what he's doing, yeah, I'll testify. Danny paused. There are others too. Guys who got fired for speaking up. We've been talking. If you need witnesses, we'll do it. After Danny hung up, Evan sat in the dark and felt something that might have been hope. Maybe they could do this. Maybe the truth would actually matter. His phone buzzed one more time. Text from Marissa. Tomorrow we fight back. Get some sleep. Evan looked at Lily's door, thought about the cookies she'd made him, about her absolute certainty that everything would be fine. Maybe she was right. Maybe if he kept standing his ground, kept fighting for what was right, kept refusing to back down, maybe that was enough. Or maybe he was about to lose everything anyway. But at least he'd lose it standing up. Thursday morning, Evan called Danny Reyes first, then Miguel Santos, then 3 more names from Marissa's list. By noon, he had 6 former workers willing to testify that Brennan had ignored safety concerns, that Evan had repeatedly documented violations, that the urgency had been clear to everyone on site except the man responsible for fixing them. Rita Gonzalez agreed to interview them Friday morning. Evan spent Thursday afternoon preparing witness statements, organizing documentation, building a timeline that showed not just what he'd reported, but how Brennan had systematically dismissed every concern. At 3, Jennifer Park called. The investigation found the embezzlement, 5 transfers totaling $3.2 million. Vance authorized them. Henriksen processed them. They buried the transactions in construction expenses across 4 different projects. Evan sat down hard. How did they find it so fast? Someone sent the general counsel a very detailed anonymous tip with specific transaction numbers and dates. She passed it to the investigators this morning. They confirmed it by lunch. Jennifer paused. The board is meeting an emergency session right now. By end of business today, both Vance and Henriksen will be terminated. Criminal charges will follow. And the licensing complaint against me? Being withdrawn. The board is issuing a formal apology and requesting the state expedite your clearance. Jennifer's voice warmed slightly. You're in the clear, Evan. Professionally, anyway. After she hung up, Evan sat in his temporary office and tried to process it. Vance gone. Henriksen gone. The embezzlement exposed. The licensing complaint withdrawn. Everything he'd been fighting against for 2 weeks, resolved. But it didn't feel like victory yet. It felt like holding his breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. His phone rang. Marissa. Did Jennifer tell you? She asked. Yeah, it's over. Not quite. The state commission still needs to clear you on the safety violations, and there's the matter of the resort timeline. She paused. But Evan, the hard part is done. Vance can't hurt you anymore. He could have destroyed everything. My career, my ability to provide for Lily, all of it. But he didn't. Because you didn't break. Because you kept standing up even when it would have been easier to walk away. Marissa's voice softened. I'm proud of you. That probably sounds condescending coming from me, but I mean it. It doesn't sound condescending. It sounds like something I needed to hear. They talked for a few more minutes. Logistics of the investigation. Timeline for the resort restart. The board's request that Marissa take over as interim director of operations while they search for Vance's replacement. After the call, Evan left early, 5:30, like always. He picked up Lily from daycare and she ran to him with a painting she'd made. It's our house, she explained, with flowers in the garden. Can we plant flowers this weekend? We can plant flowers. Real ones? Not just drawn ones? Real ones. You can pick the colors. At home, Lily talked nonstop while he made dinner. About the painting. About the flowers. About how Jordan had brought a frog to school and it had escaped, and Mrs. Peterson had screamed and everyone had laughed. Evan listened and felt something loosen in his chest. This was what mattered. Not the investigation or the embezzlement or the executives who'd tried to destroy him. This small person who trusted him to make the world safe and stable and good. After dinner, after the Dragon Book, after Lily was asleep, Evan sat on his back porch and called his parents. They lived 3 states away, visited twice a year, and worried constantly about him raising Lily alone. How are you holding up? His mother asked immediately. She always knew when something was wrong. I'm okay.
Work's been complicated, but it's getting resolved. Complicated how? Evan told her the abbreviated version. The dare, the relationship with Marissa, the executives who'd retaliated, the investigation that had finally exposed them. His mother was quiet for a long moment. You could have lost everything. I know. But you didn't back down. I couldn't. Not and still look at myself in the mirror. Not and still be the person I want Lily to see. Your father and I raised you right. Her voice was thick with emotion. We're proud of you, Evan. Not everyone has the courage to stand up when it costs them something. After they hung up, Evan sat in the dark and thought about courage. He'd never felt brave. He'd felt terrified most of the time, but maybe that was what courage actually was, being scared and doing the right thing anyway. Friday morning brought clear skies. The rain had washed everything clean, left the world sharp and bright and new. Evan drove to the state commission office where Rita had scheduled the witness interviews. Danny Reyes went first. He testified that Brennan had known about the scaffolding issues, had been told directly they were dangerous, had said he'd fix them, and then done nothing. Miguel Santos confirmed the electrical violations, said he'd refused to work near the exposed wiring and been written up for insubordination. 4 more workers told similar stories. By noon, Rita had enough. She called Evan into her office alone. I'm satisfied that you acted appropriately, she said. You documented violations as you discovered them. You reported to the supervisor. You gave him reasonable time to remediate. When he didn't, you escalated formally. She closed her folder. The contractor is facing penalties for the violations and for retaliation against workers who reported safety concerns. You're cleared of any negligence claims. Thank you. Don't thank me. You did the work. You stood up when it would have been easier to look away. Rita leaned back in her chair. Too many consultants see problems and stay quiet because they don't want to make waves. You made waves. People are safer because of it. Evan left the commission office feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He called Marissa from the parking lot. Rita cleared me. No negligence. Contractor is being penalized. That's perfect. He could hear the smile in her voice. The board wants to meet with you Monday. They're going to formally apologize and discuss extending your contract through project completion. I don't know if I want to stay. I understand, but think about it over the weekend. You've built something good here. Would be ashamed to walk away from it now. That night, Evan took Lily to the garden store. She picked petunias and marigolds and something called snapdragons that she insisted on getting because the name was cool. They spent Saturday morning planting them, Lily getting dirt under her fingernails and asking constant questions about how deep to dig and how much water they needed. Will they grow fast? She asked, patting soil around a petunia. Fairly fast. We should see flowers in a few weeks. Can we plant more things, like vegetables? We can plant whatever you want. Sunday, Marissa texted asking if he wanted to meet for coffee. They sat at an outdoor cafe, drinking lattes while the city woke up around them. I've been thinking about what happens next, Marissa said. With us. Me too. I'm going to be director of operations, at least temporarily. That changes the power dynamic between us. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I don't want you to feel pressured. If this is too complicated, if you'd rather step back, I don't want to step back. Evan reached across the table, took her hand. I want to see where this goes, carefully, transparently, with full disclosure to HR and anyone else who needs to know. Even if people talk, even if some executives think I'm giving you preferential treatment, let them think what they want. We'll document everything, keep our work relationship professional, do everything by the book. He squeezed her hand. I've spent 2 weeks fighting for the right to make my own choices. I'm not going to give that up now because it's inconvenient. Marissa smiled, actually smiled, warm and genuine. Okay then, let's see where this goes. They talked for 2 hours, about the resort timeline, about her new role, about what Evan wanted from his career now that he'd proven he could stand up to executive pressure, about Lily and whether Marissa was ready to meet her, not as a colleague, but as someone who might become important in Evan's life. Not yet, Evan said. She's 7. She doesn't need to meet every person I date, but if this keeps going the way I think it might, then yes. Eventually. I like that you protect her. Marissa finished her coffee. A lot of single parents introduce their kids to every relationship. You're more careful than that. She's been through enough instability. I'm not adding more unless I'm sure it matters. Monday morning, Evan wore a suit again. Walked into the Meridian building with his shoulders back and his head up. The board meeting was at 10. Rothwell started with the apology. Formal. Comprehensive. Acknowledging that Evan had been subjected to retaliation, that the company had failed to protect him, that they were implementing new policies to prevent similar situations. We'd like to extend your contract through project completion, Rothwell said, with a 20% rate increase to reflect the additional responsibilities you'll be taking on as we rebuild the operations team. I appreciate that, Evan said carefully, but I need some conditions. Such as? Direct reporting to Ms. Lang as Interim Director of Operations. Clear boundaries around my work scope. No expectation that I'll attend evening meetings or weekend events unless absolutely critical. Evan met Rothwell's eyes. I'm a single father. That's not going to change. If Meridian needs someone who can work 80-hour weeks, I'm not your person. Those terms are acceptable. Rothwell looked at the other board members. Anyone have concerns? No one did. They approved the contract extension unanimously. Evan signed it there in the conference room, feeling like he'd negotiated something more important than just a consulting rate. After the meeting, Marissa walked him back to his office. You did good in there. I asked for what I needed instead of just accepting what they offered. That's new for me. It's growth. I'm proud of you. She stopped at his door. The resort site reopens Wednesday. Contractor has corrected all violations and brought in a new supervisor. We're still looking at a 4-week delay, but the timeline is salvageable. I'll have updated projections by end of day. I know you will. She started to leave, then turned back. Evan, thank you for not backing down, for standing beside me when it would have been easier to walk away. Most people would have taken Henriksen's offer and disappeared. Most people aren't trying to teach their daughters that integrity matters. That week passed in a blur of work. The resort site restarted with new safety protocols and a contractor who actually followed them. Evan updated timelines, coordinated with the new supervisor, and worked with Marissa to rebuild the operations workflow without Vance's toxic management style. Thursday evening, Jennifer Park called with news that Vance and Henriksen had been formally charged with embezzlement and fraud. The district attorney was pursuing prison time. Both had immediately hired expensive lawyers and were preparing to fight. They'll probably plead down, Jennifer said, but they're done in this industry. No executive position will touch them after this. Good, Evan said, and meant it. Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after the emergency board meeting, Evan left at 5:30 like always. But this time, instead of rushing to beat traffic, he stopped at a bakery and picked up cupcakes. Chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, Lily's favorite. At home, he found her in the backyard checking on the flowers they'd planted. The petunias were blooming, small purple flowers that Lily examined with intense concentration. They grew, she announced when she saw him. Look, Daddy, they actually grew. They did. You took good care of them. Can we plant more things next weekend? We can plant whatever you want. But that evening, after dinner and cupcakes and the dragon book, Lily asked him if the mean people at work were gone. Yeah, Evan said. They're gone. Did you make them go away? I stood up for what was right. Other people helped. Together we made sure they couldn't hurt anyone else. Lily thought about this. That's good. I'm glad you stood up. Me too, sweetie. 3 weeks later, Marissa came to dinner. Evan had told Lily ahead of time that someone from work was visiting, that she was important to him, that Lily should be polite but didn't have to like her if she didn't want to. What if I do like her? Lily had asked. Then that's okay too. Marissa arrived at 6 with flowers for Lily, snapdragons, because Evan had mentioned they were her favorite. Lily accepted them solemnly, then announced she'd give Marissa a tour of the garden. Evan watched from the kitchen window as his daughter showed Marissa every plant they'd put in, explaining the names and colors and which ones were growing fastest. Marissa knelt in the dirt to see them at Lily's level, asked questions, listened carefully to the answers. At dinner, Lily talked nonstop, about school, about her friends.
about the dragon book they were reading. Marissa listened to all of it, asked follow-up questions, treated Lily like a person whose opinions mattered. After Lily was in bed, Marissa and Evan sat on the back porch. "She's wonderful," Marissa said. "Smart and confident and completely herself. She's the best thing I've ever done." "I can see that." Marissa leaned against him. "This is good. Being here, meeting her, seeing this part of your life." "Are you sure?" "It's a lot." Single dad with a 7-year-old, not exactly uncomplicated. "Nothing worth having is uncomplicated." She turned to look at him. "I like you, Evan Cross. I like that you stood up to executives who tried to destroy you. I like that you put your daughter first, even when it costs you professionally. I like that you're sitting here second-guessing whether I'm really okay with all of this, instead of just assuming I'll adapt to whatever you need. I want you to be sure. Because if this keeps going, if we keep going, Lily's part of the package. I can't separate those parts of my life." "I don't want you to separate them. I want to be part of all of it." Marissa kissed him softly. "I'm sure, Evan. More sure than I've been about anything in a long time." The resort project continued through summer. By August, they were back on schedule. The foundation was solid, the structure was rising, and every safety inspection passed without issue. The new contractor worked carefully, methodically, and Evan didn't have to file a single violation report. In September, the board officially offered Marissa the permanent director of operations position. She accepted with the condition that she could restructure the department, bring in new executives who valued integrity over politics, and implement mandatory safety training for all supervisors. In October, Vance and Henriksen pleaded guilty to reduce charges. Vance got 4 years. Henriksen got 3. Both agreed to repay the embezzled funds and forfeit their severance packages. In November, the resort structure topped out. Evan stood with Marissa and the construction crew while they placed the final beam, a tradition that meant the worst of the work was behind them. Someone had painted the beam white, and everyone on the project had signed it. Evan found his signature next to Marissa's. Below it, someone had written, "Built right by people who gave a damn." In December, as the project moved into finishing work, Meridian offered Evan a permanent position, Director of Project Quality, his own team, his own budget, the authority to shut down any project that didn't meet safety or quality standards. He negotiated for flexible hours, for the right to work from home when Lily was sick, for boundaries that protected his time as a father. They agreed to everything. The resort opened in March, 6 months later than originally planned, but completed to the highest standards. No safety incidents, no quality issues, no corners cut. Evan stood at the grand opening with Lily on one side and Marissa on the other. His daughter wore a dress she'd picked out herself, purple with flowers that matched the petunias they'd planted in the garden. Marissa wore professional clothes but held his hand where everyone could see. Rothwell gave a speech about commitment and excellence and the importance of doing things right even when it was difficult. He specifically thanked Evan for his integrity, for refusing to compromise on safety, for standing up when it mattered. The crowd applauded. Lily squeezed his hand. "I'm proud of you, Daddy," she whispered. "Thank you, sweetie. That means everything to me." After the ceremony, after the tours and the photographs and the congratulations, Marissa pulled Evan aside. They stood in one of the resort's finished suites, looking out at the valley below. "I have something for you," she said. She handed him a key card. "Suite access, permanent, for you and Lily, anytime you want to visit." "Marissa, I can't accept." "It's not a gift. It's recognition." She folded his fingers around the key. "You saved this project. You kept it honest. You made sure it was built right even when people tried to stop you. This suite exists because you wouldn't back down." Evan looked at the key, then at Marissa. "Thank you. Not just for this, for everything, for standing beside me, for not walking away when it got hard. That's what people do when they care about each other. They stand beside each other." She moved closer. "I love you, Evan. I know we haven't said it yet. I know it's complicated with Lily and work and everything else, but I love you, and I wanted you to know." Evan felt something break open in his chest. "I love you too. I have for a while. I was just scared to say it." "What were you scared of?" "That it was too good. that something would go wrong, that I'd wake up and realize I'd imagined all of this. He pulled her close. But it's real. You're real. And I'm done being scared of good things. They stood there together, looking out at the resort they'd fought so hard to protect. The sun was setting over the valley, painting everything gold and orange and beautiful. Below, Evan could see Lily playing in the resort garden with Miss Sarah, who'd come to the opening as their guest. His daughter was picking flowers, probably planning which ones to plant at home. "She likes me," Marissa said, watching Lily. "I can tell." "She does. She told me last week that you're smart and you don't talk to her like she's stupid. High praise from a 7-year-old. I like her too. She's funny and thoughtful and completely fearless." Marissa rested her head on his shoulder. "I can see why you rearranged your whole life around her. She's worth it." "She is. And so is this. Us." Evan kissed the top of her head. "I spent 3 years thinking I had to choose between being a good father and having a life of my own. You showed me I could have both. You showed me that integrity isn't naive, that standing up matters, that some things are worth fighting for even when everyone tells you to walk away." Marissa looked up at him. "We made each other better. That's worth something." That night, after the opening celebration, after taking Lily home and reading the Dragon Book one last time, Evan sat on his back porch and thought about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, he'd been a consultant who left at 5:30 every day, who kept his head down and didn't make waves. Someone disposable. Someone executives like Vance could dare to harass a colleague for entertainment. Now he was a director with his own team, someone who'd stood up to corruption and won. Someone who'd proven that you could be a devoted father and still have a career worth respect. Someone who'd found love with a woman who understood that his daughter came first and valued him more for it. His phone buzzed. Text from Marissa. "Thank you for today, for letting me be part of it, for letting me be part of your life." Evan typed back. "Thank you for not giving up on me, for standing beside me, for showing me what it looks like when someone chooses integrity over convenience." Her response came quickly. "That's what love does. It chooses right over easy every single time." Evan sat in the dark and thought about that. About choosing right over easy, about standing up when it costs something, about being the kind of man his daughter could be proud of. The flowers they'd planted were still blooming, the petunias and marigolds and snapdragons that Lily had chosen, small things that grew because someone took care of them, because someone gave them what they needed to thrive, like his relationship with Marissa, like his daughter's confidence, like his own sense of worth. All of it built carefully, one day at a time, by refusing to compromise on what mattered. Evan looked at the key card Marissa had given him. Sweet access to a resort that existed because he'd refused to let corrupt executives destroy it. A small symbol of something much larger. He'd built a life worth living, not by climbing corporate ladders or playing political games, but by showing up every day, by keeping promises, by standing his ground when it would have been easier to fold. His daughter was asleep inside, dreaming whatever 7-year-olds dreamed about. The woman he loved was 10 miles away, probably working late because she cared about doing things right. The resort they'd fought for was open and beautiful and safe. And tomorrow, Evan would wake up and do it all again. Pick up Lily from school at 5:30, make dinner, read the Dragon Book, be the father she needed him to be. But now he'd do it knowing he'd proven something important. That you didn't have to choose between integrity and success. That standing up mattered. That being a devoted father made you stronger, not weaker. That some dares were worth taking. Not the ones meant to humiliate or test, but the ones where you bet on yourself. Where you risk everything on the belief that doing right matters more than being safe. Evan had taken that dare. Had asked out a woman honestly instead of playing games. Had stood beside her when executives tried to destroy them both. Had refused to compromise even when it cost him everything. And he'd won. Not just the investigation or the contract or the career. He'd won the life he wanted to live. The kind where his daughter saw him as someone who stood up for what mattered. Where the woman he loved valued him for his integrity. Where he could look at himself in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. That was the real victory. Not the resort or the promotion or the public vindication. Just knowing that when his daughter asked if he was brave, he could honestly say yes. Because he'd been scared and done the right thing anyway. Because being a father meant showing up, keeping promises, never walking away when things got hard. And Evan Cross had proven, to himself, to his daughter, to everyone who doubted him, that he was exactly that kind of man. The kind who stayed,